Chapter 2437. Silver Tank was instantly stunned. If these words were really pursued, his crime would be very serious. Among the Titans, even though the 13 kings represented the peak power of the clan, their existence was also the main personnel for the stability of the clan. Any king was of great significance to the clan. But this didn't mean that they couldn't lack anyone. Whether it was the clan's reputation or strength, Jean Tan was the undisputed leader. His words just now. It was said out of anger, but if it was really pursued, Silver Tank would definitely be spurned by the entire clan and exiled from the clan. Considering Silver Tank's strength, the clan would be stable. Who knows, he might even be secretly dealt with by the clan. Big brother! Silver Tank immediately got up from his chair and knelt on the ground. The other kings around watched silently. Under such circumstances, they couldn't make a sound. They needed to wait for Silver Tank to explain. Only then could they help to say a few good words. Jean Tan looked down expressionlessly. He and Silver Tank were brothers, but at this moment, his expression didn't reveal the slightest bit of affection. Big brother! We grew up together. It's impossible that you don't know what kind of personality I have. How could I possibly do such a thing? The Silver Tank shouted at the top of his lungs, wanting to defend himself. All these years, I've always done my best to assist you. When did I ever think of fighting you for the position of clan leader? Big brother, you must believe me. Clan leader, Silver Tank, There was a king in the hall who wanted to speak up for Silver Tank, but Jean Tan's gaze made that king swallow his words. Jean Tan silently looked down at Silver Tank. Big brother! What I'm going to say now is to all of you. Remember, all of you. Jean Tan's gaze swept across the eyes of the other kings. The human race and our Titan race are allies. The reason why our Titan race has our current status is because we're protected by the human race. Remember, no one is to mention the bad things about the human race to me. If anyone dares to, then leave the Titan race. Do you understand? Yes, clan leader. The kings on the seats all nodded. Jean Tan looked at Silver Tank kneeling on the ground and snorted. Go to the ancestral mountain and reflect. Brother. Intan widened his eyes. If I go to the ancestral mountain, then who will guard the Intan galaxy? I will send some experts over. If you, LV Dong, are worried, you can find your own people to guard the place. Do you have any questions? No, no more. The Silver Tank shook his head silently. With that, Jean Tan waved his hand and left the hall. The others watched the gold tank leave, and then looked at the Silver Tank, who was kneeling on the ground for a long time without getting up. They sighed, shook their heads, and did not move forward. They were all prepared to return to their respective star systems. From this time, everything was clear. Jean Tan's attitude was very clear. He would never betray the human race. Did I go too far just now? As soon as Jean Tan returned to his cave abode, a little monkey appeared on his shoulder and whispered into his ear. He was Jean Tan's optical supercomputer, Xiao Jean. You also think I passed? Jean Tan grabbed the wine on the table and took a sip. Actually, you should know best. A Silver Tank wouldn't do that. Of course. Jean Tan nodded lightly and did not refute. If that's the case, why did you say such harsh words to him and even let him go to the ancestral mountain? Xiao Jean did not understand. I have absolute trust in my brother. Jean Tan sat on the chair and looked into the distance with a deep gaze. A Silver Tank won't betray me, but that doesn't mean others won't. I've received news recently that Wood Tank and Fire Tank have been in close contact recently, and the time they left their clans is about the same. You suspect them? No, I don't suspect anyone, but I don't suspect anyone. It seemed that Jean Tan's words were problematic. But he was very clear about what he wanted to express. Those 12 Vajras were his close friends and brothers who had gone through life and death with him for many years. From a sense of camaraderie, he did not want to suspect them. But from the stability of the clans and their ambitions, Why would he suspect anyone? Did you notice the look in their eyes when I said that I would never betray the human race? Jean Tan said, a few of them had strange looks in their eyes. Also, when I looked at them, a few of them did not dare to look me in the eye. I noticed that and wanted to tell you about it, Xiao Jin said. These guys all need to be watched closely. Jean Tan squinted his eyes and said, I'll leave this to you. No problem. Even though Xiao Jin was an AI, he had many different abilities. He had the highest authority in the clan. He could monitor any clansman at will without them noticing. Do it well. Are you still worried about what I do? Xiao Jin replied with a smile. Jean Tan also smiled. The two of them had worked together for so many years. The one he trusted the most was Xiao Jin. What about the silver tank kid? Let him go to the ancestral mountain. Jean Tan did not ease up at all. Since I've already said it, I can't take it back. Today, even if it's to intimidate the other Vajras, it's also to give him a warning. Maybe he's being used by others without even realizing it. He can't be bitterly disappointed. If he treats me as his big brother, then he won't be bitterly disappointed. Jean Tan let out a deep breath. He did not want to continue on this topic. He waved his palm around. A warning barrier was set up around him. I'm going into seclusion for this period of time. I'll leave the clan matters to you. Why are you suddenly going into seclusion? Xiao Jin was stunned. At Jean Tan's level of strength, there was actually not much point in going into seclusion. All he needed was an opportunity. If he could break through, then so be it. If not, then he would probably stay like this for the rest of his life. The only thing that could possibly increase his strength was, it might be the possession of an ancient divine artifact. Even such a divine artifact could only be found by chance. Wanting to obtain it was harder than ascending to the heavens. Jean Tan had not gone into seclusion for tens of thousands of years. Suddenly saying that he was going into seclusion surprised Xiao Jin. I need to increase my strength as much as possible, even if it's just a little, to prepare for the future. Jean Tan said. In the future? Xiao Jin was stunned. Then, his face revealed a surprised expression. You suspect that the human race will act against you? That's right. Then just now in the hall, Jean Tan was still speaking righteously, saying that the Titan race and the human race would always be allies, and that the Titan race would never betray the human race. Why did he suddenly suspect her again? Betrayal is betrayal. Suspicion is suspicion. I just said, I suspect anyone, including the human race. Chapter 2438. Inside the vast universe, an interstellar warship shuttled through the dark universe. Inside the warship, a middle-aged man with long blue hair silently looked at the chaotic scenery outside while swirling the liquor in his glass. The seed of doubt has been planted. I just don't know when it will bear fruit. I hope Jean Tan won't disappoint me too much. The middle-aged man's mouth slightly curled up. At this moment, a virtual projection popped up in front of his eyes. Planet Lord. Standing in the projection was a handsome blonde lady. Seeing the lady appear, the blue-haired middle-aged man raised his glass and laughed heartily. Hey Lucy. What a surprise, you actually sent me a projected conversation. But you know, I hate it when people do this. If I'm bathing, then you've seen me naked. The blue-haired middle-aged man smiled faintly. Angry yet not angry. No one could understand his current mood. But at least it doesn't seem to be the case now. The blonde lady was expressionless. Planet Lord, I have something to report to you. I hope you can put away your unfunny joke. Okay. The blue-haired middle-aged man shrugged, put the glass on the table, and sat upright. This subordinate just went to the Bounty Alliance. Why did you go to that kind of place? An organization that can't see the light, a place where a bunch of galactic pirates gather. The smell there is disgusting. You must go take a bath later. I like the fragrant you. The blue-haired middle-aged man smiled. The blonde lady didn't seem to hear the middle-aged man's teasing. still expressionless. This subordinate saw information about a galaxy suspected to be the Milky Way being sold in the Bounty Alliance. Is that so? The middle-aged man nodded lightly. May I ask if we should buy it? Buy it. Understood. As soon as the voice fell, the virtual projection disappeared in front of the blue-haired middle-aged man. The middle-aged man shrugged bitterly. He also wanted to take this opportunity to ask Lucy out for dinner. Hey, Cold Moon. Say it, I'm listening. An ethereal voice resounded in the warship. Full speed ahead, I want to return to the galaxy as soon as possible. Okay. When the blue-haired middle-aged man gave the order, the blonde lady, Lucy, had already arrived at the third underground floor of the Bounty Alliance. In the past, the Bounty Alliance only had 2 floors. The first floor was used to handle business, and the second floor was the underground bar. The third floor was usually not opened, and the only time it was opened was during auctions. Hey, beauty! The moment Lucy appeared, many people whistled at her. Lucy did not respond at all. She walked straight to an empty seat and sat down. Next up, we will be auctioning the Tianyun star. Please take a look. As soon as the host finished speaking, a vital planet appeared on the screen. This life star has just been born. In theory, it can house 17 billion people. There are already 6 billion humans. Native planet. The strongest expert inside is at the 3rd level of the star system. Planet characteristics: female humans are white. The starting price is 600,000 universe dollars. Just as he finished speaking, the important people on the auction stage all started bidding. 800,000. 1 million. 2 million. It seemed that the starting price was very low, but in the end it would reach hundreds of millions. Soon, the newly born planet was purchased. After the auction of this life star, the host on the stage suddenly became excited. Good. Finally, it's time for the main event of the night. I believe that there are many almighties here. They are all here for the finale. During this time, the blonde woman, Lucy, had been observing the people on the auction stage. She was looking for competitors who could compete with her. Alright, stop talking. Hurry up and show it. Yeah, hurry up and show the finale. We have been waiting for so long. Hurry up, hurry up. Among these people who were urging the host, most of them did not have the capital to buy. They were just here to cause a ruckus. Those who really had the capital to buy were all waiting quietly. So many. After looking around, the blonde woman narrowed her eyes. While she was investigating, she felt that there were at least 7 people with extraordinary auras. From their expressions, she could tell that they were here for the finale. While she was investigating, the others were doing the same. Perhaps because they felt each other's auras, they even nodded to each other. 3 men and 3 women. Including Lucy, there were 7 people. 2 country leaders, 4 knights. Lucy squinted her eyes. It seemed like the competition this time was going to be especially intense. The people below the stage were still shouting. The host laughed heartily. He didn't purposely keep the others in suspense. Alright, then let's bring out the final auction information. A galaxy. In an instant, the entire 3rd level became a galaxy ocean. Countless stars seemed to pass through everyone's eyes. This is an entire galaxy. Ownerless. The size of the galaxy is equivalent to a small universe country. Hua. The people below the stage were in an uproar. Universe country. 300,000 primal chaos. Before the host could continue, there were already people bidding. Don't want too many people to notice that this is the Milky Way galaxy? Lucy squinted her eyes. She already understood what this bidder was thinking. 300,000 primal chaos at the start. Compared to the previous planet, it was 100 million times higher. 800,000 primal chaos. Before the crowd could digest it, someone else raised the price. You guys are too stingy. Our time is tight. Let's speed up a little. A lady on the stage spoke. 20 million primal chaos. The entire crowd went silent. 20 million. Primal chaos. What kind of background did these people have? That's right. Everyone is busy. Let's speed up the auction a little. Another man spoke. 30 million primal chaos. 50 million. 80 million. 100 million. The price continued to rise. Behind the stage, Sika and his crew members were so excited they clenched their fists. 100 million. It actually reached over 100 million. This had already far exceeded their expectations. You youngsters, why are you in such a rush? As the other 5 were bidding, an old man stood out. He had finally appeared. Lucy hadn't spoken yet. She had been waiting for this old man. This old man looked old and clumsy. However, he was actually a night-level expert. 300 million. When the old man's words landed, the entire third level went silent. 300 million. Even a monarch or a venerable might not have such a huge amount of wealth. Everyone thought that there wouldn't be a price higher than this. Lucy gently raised her hand, her eyes revealing a smile. 1 billion. Chapter 2439. 1 billion. When Lucy shouted this number, it instantly caused an uproar. 1 billion. Even the host on the stage stuttered. This blonde lady bids 1 billion. Is there any higher? Lucy looked at the previous bidders with a smile on her face. From the way they bid, based on the number they shouted, she could roughly estimate the limit that these people could bid. 1 billion. It was to give them a sense of pressure. It made them feel that they came prepared. You directly shouted so much. Are you even letting us participate in the auction? The girl with some baby fat pouted. Didn't you say to end it as soon as possible? Lucy smiled. TSK. From their expressions, it could be seen that these people would probably not continue bidding. Old man, what do you think? Lucy looked at the old man who was at the honor realm. The old man smiled and shook his head. Let's not compete anymore. Lucy maintained a smile on her face as she looked at the host on the stage. If no one else bids, does it belong to me? Bro, pinch me. Why? I don't even know you. Pinch me. Someone in the auction seat said to the person next to him. That person frowned and pinched him. F***CK. It's actually true. The eyes of the person who was pinched flickered with fear. Is there something wrong with his brain? Bro, 1 billion primordial chaos. The person who was pinched shouted, 1 billion. What exactly is being auctioned for it to reach 1 billion primordial chaos? Won't the person who found this place be rich? It's quite exaggerated. The young man nodded his head. 1 billion primordial chaos. This number sounded quite scary. Hey, do you think it's exaggerated? The person who was pinched widened his eyes. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Almost everyone else had the same expression. The young man shrugged his shoulders and slowly raised his hand. 2 billion. In an instant, the person who was pinched was dumbfounded. He stared at the young man in front of him and his raised hand. Bro. The young man smiled at him. He tilted his head and looked at Lucy provocatively. Where did he come from? Lucy frowned. This young man wasn't among the people she noticed just now. Just a little bit more, and the information would have been hers. Who are you? Lucy frowned. Why are you asking me who I am? The young man was puzzled. People who come here are here to buy information. Why do you want to know my identity? Do you want to kill me and steal my information? You asked me who I am, why don't you tell me who you are? I don't believe that an earl can have 2 billion chaos. You really have no class. The young man shook his head unhappily. Forget it. I can't be bothered to argue with a servant like you. Who are you calling a servant? It's you. The young man looked at Lucy silently, as if he could see through Lucy's disguise. Bounty Alliance. In fact, these were all shady deals. The people who came here would naturally disguise themselves and not show their true appearances. It was the same for the old man and the chubby girl. You. Lucy's eyes revealed a fierce look, and a faint smell of blood lingered around her. Not only is he tasteless, he's also an idiot. The young man narrowed his eyes and looked at Lucy, who was not far away. What's the point of your disguise if you release your aura like that? Many people here have already recognized you. With that, the young man took out a card and threw it onto the stage. Mr. Host, am I qualified to bid? Black card. When the host saw the card on the stage, he immediately revealed a look of respect. Sir, of course you can. After getting the host's affirmation, the young man also sat quietly on the chair, as if he could not be bothered to look at Lucy again. Buy it from me if you can. 3 billion. After letting out a long breath, Lucy seemed to gradually regain her composure. She clenched her teeth and shouted, 10 billion. The young man's face was filled with satisfaction. Looking at his relaxed expression, it was as if he was talking about 1 million. This was chaos. Some first-rate families might not even have 10 billion primordial chaos crystals. 15 billion. 50 billion. The young man narrowed his eyes and smiled from beginning to end. Everyone held their breath. At this moment, they couldn't even exclaim in surprise. The number 50 billion lingered in their minds. 50 billion primordial chaos. Even if they used 100 million primordial chaos crystals a year, it would still take them 500 years. One primordial chaos was 100 million universe dollars. You win. Lucy pointed at the young man and scolded. Just before she left, the young man grinned. Go back and tell your master. Tell him to stop thinking about that place if he doesn't want to start a war. You are, Fram. The young man coldly interrupted Lucy's words. Lucy, who seemed to have guessed the young man's identity, hurriedly left the Bounty Alliance. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. They didn't know what the young man and Lucy were talking about, but they knew that someone who could take out 50 billion primordial chaos crystals was definitely an outstanding person among the human race. Mr. Host, can you give me the news now? I'm quite anxious. The young man smiled and walked onto the stage. The host respectfully returned the black card to the young man. As long as you transfer the money to our account. The news belongs to you. Then transfer it. The young man directly handed the card to the host. The host silently held the card, his eyes filled with surprise. Just this card? It's just 50 billion primordial chaos crystals. Do I need to use multiple cards to transfer it? The young man smiled. About 10 minutes later, the young man left the Bounty Alliance after obtaining the coordinate. The moment he stepped out, he entered a universe ship and transformed into a handsome man. Entering the virtual network. Where are you? I'm in the palace. What was interesting was that I saw Tsang Yu's people. You returned in low spirits. Of course, I've already bought the Milky Way's dark spot. The man smiled and sent a message. I'll go to your palace now. Think about how to thank me. I spent 50 billion to buy it. It's just 50 billion. The other party sneered. To you, it's just a drop in the ocean. Right, Blue Emperor? You're right, Wan Li. At the same time, Lucy, who had returned from the Bounty Alliance, was filled with rage. At this moment, a blue-haired middle-aged man appeared in front of her. Who made our beauty Lucy so angry? Tell me and I'll wipe out his entire family. Star-Lord, is what you said true? Lucy squinted her eyes and smiled. Then go. The person who made me angry is the head of the Universe Union Bank, Blue Emperor. Chapter 2440. Blue Emperor. The blue-haired middle-aged man was stunned. Even though his expression didn't change much, Lucy could see the scars on his face wriggling. No matter how calm this person was, facing existences like Blue Emperor and Wan Li, he would still feel a ripple in his heart. Haha, Then I have to think about it. The Universe Union Bank isn't so easy to deal with. I have to think about it. The middle-aged man touched the long hair in front of his eyebrows. The corners of his lips curled up, turning into his signature smile. How did he offend you? Didn't you go to buy information about the Milky Way? Don't tell me he went too. That's right. Lucy nodded and looked at the space above her head. Why don't we talk inside? I'm fine here. You're one of the highest beings of humanity, Star-Lord Sangyu. If your supporters see you here, it will be troublesome. That's true. With a wave of his hand, an interstellar battleship appeared above the planet. The battleship covered the sky. The inhabitants of the planet all looked up. The middle-aged man hugged Lucy's waist and tiptoed into the cabin of the battleship. The moment they entered the battleship disappeared from the sky, as though it was never there. Here. After entering the battleship, the middle-aged Star-Lord Sangyu raised a glass of wine to Lucy. Lucy took the glass and looked at the decorations of the battleship. You really enjoy yourself. Ha ha ha, with all of you here, it's not a big deal for me to enjoy myself. Star-Lord Sangyu smiled and lightly touched Lucy's glass. You said Blue Emperor went too. Are you sure? I'm not sure. Even though she wasn't sure, Lucy's answer was resolute. It's all my guesses. Then I believe your guesses. Star-Lord Sangyu raised her eyebrows and smiled. That Blue Emperor fella is getting worse. Does he have to do such a small thing himself? Since he went in person, don't blame yourself for not being able to buy the information. In this universe, he's the richest person. I'm not blaming myself. Lucy shrugged and looked at Star-Lord Sangyu strangely. Isn't it a given that you can't snatch it from him? His confident tone made Star-Lord Deep Moon's face stiffen subconsciously. The hand holding the cup sank a little. Lucy, we are the subjects, right? Yes. Then can you please treat me, your master, with a little more respect? You're making me very embarrassed. Star Master Deep Moon tilted her head and smiled bitterly. You should learn from Puppet. He has absolute respect for me. Yes, and a very deep love. Lucy curled her lip. Don't mention that. The Puppet was the man who had communicated with the Titans. He was one of Star-Lord Sangyu's most capable subordinates. The strength of an honorable was comparable to an overlord. He was also the brains of the Sangyu galaxy. He was meticulous and quick-witted. His only shortcoming was that he liked men. And he especially liked Star-Lord Sangyu. Once, he had secretly drugged Star-Lord Sangyu in the middle of the night. If Star-Lord Sangyu had not been strong enough to wake up in time, she would have exploded. For this matter, Star Master Sangyu punished the Puppet by copying the Sangyu system's constitution 300,000 times. Handwriting. Sealing the power of the universe. Because of this matter, Star-Lord Sangyu was mocked by her subordinates for a long time. Puppet still had not given up on Star-Lord Sangyu. All right, you're the master. I won't talk nonsense. Lucy tilted her head and shrugged. She drank the wine in her cup in one gulp. Fire grapes, picked from the spiritual mountain? You've tasted it? Star-Lord Sangyu smiled. I know you like fire grapes, so I specially went to the outer heavenly mountain galaxy and beat up the guardian of their sacred mountain to snatch them. It must have been hard on you. The corner of Lucy's mouth twitched. It was not that she did not want this master, the honorable, but this master did not seem to be in charge at all. He idled around every day. They strolled one round here, then another round there. Is there anything else? I'll take them all away after sealing them. All right. I've sealed them for you. Star-Lord Sangyu smiled. Lucy sighed speechlessly. She found a seat and sat down, just in time to see a pair of smelly shoes. Puppet is here too. Yes. How's his side doing? Any news from the Titan race? He just came back not long ago. Star-Lord Sangyu shrugged. He said he planted a seed of suspicion. Don't worry about Puppet. Playing mind games is his specialty. According to his estimates, the Titan race will rebel in less than 5 years. So long. Lucy frowned. Actually, it's quite fast. Star-Lord Sangyu smiled. The timing is just right. Lucy frowned and nodded lightly. 5 years. It was the time of the genius competition. That was also the busiest time in the universe. If they pushed for it then, they could avoid some trouble. How's Shorty's side? No news. What about Crow? There's still no news. Our progress is too slow. Lucy frowned. The 4 god races have not been dealt with. The 5th god race, Chelan, has not been found. The 4 guardian races have also dealt with the Titan race. Star-Lord, we don't have much time left. That's right. Star-Lord Songyue frowned in frustration. Immediately after, he tilted his head to look at Lucy, who was in charge of the Galaxy Intelligence Report, and slapped her on the head. What? Those who don't know would think you're the Star-Lord and I'm your subordinate. Stan. Ow. Lucy curled her lip. I didn't say I didn't want you to stand. You insisted on standing and now you're blaming me. Seeing that Star-Lord Songyue did not speak, Lucy smiled. Star-Lord. Star-Lord. Songyue. Lucy's sudden roar scared Star-Lord Songyue. You scared me to death. Cold Moon, I really don't understand. How could someone like you become a supreme being? How could you even cause trouble for the Milky Way Master, causing him to be unable to recover? Lucy could not help but shake her head. I originally wanted to rely on the Milky Way Master. I didn't expect to end up with you. This is fate. Star-Lord Songyue shrugged. Then what do you think we should do now? I didn't get any information about the Milky Way galaxy. It's very likely that the Milky Way Master is hiding in the newly born Milky Way galaxy. He won't. Only now did Star-Lord Songyue reveal a deep gaze. I know him. He won't hide. His pride won't allow him to do so. According to what you said, what is the Milky Way galaxy for? To leave its seeds. Chapter 2441. Seed. What seed? Lucy's eyes were filled with confusion. Before the old Milky Way was destroyed, it was the largest galaxy of the human race. The existence of the Milky Way was also a symbol of the human race. How vast the Milky Way used to be was how thoroughly it was destroyed. The entire star field. It was completely destroyed and fragmented. Almost all of its people died in battle. After that, the Milky Way was labeled as a traitor. Almost all of its people who survived were imprisoned by the human race. Only a few survived. The only ones who were truly alive were those who had been on the run, those who had been on the wanted list but had not been caught. Now that the Milky Way's wanted order was lifted, they could live more freely. Are you talking about the survivors? Lucy hesitated for a while before speaking. If that's the case, then we can't just leave the Milky Way alone. To be able to survive such a harsh situation, they are the best of the human race. For our future plans, we can invest a certain amount of resources to wipe them all out. You're thinking too simply. Cold Moon Star Master shook her head gently, her eyes revealing a deep smile. Our wanted order was revoked less than 3 months after it was issued. Don't you think about the reason behind it? At that time, the Milky Way's wanted order was issued by Cold Moon Star Master in conjunction with the Universe Dueling Arena and the Universe Mercenary Alliance. It was to give the Milky Way the final fatal blow. Unfortunately, after the news was issued, they didn't capture any of the Milky Way's old subordinates in the 3 months. From this, it could be seen that, among the human race, many people still couldn't believe that the Milky Way Master was a traitor to the human race. The power of the human race in the universe couldn't be mobilized. Then his plan was destined to fail. It didn't matter if it failed. As long as the wanted order was still there, it was still a great deterrent to the old subordinates of the Milky Way who were hiding in the dark and had the identity of a Milky Way resident. They couldn't move freely in the human universe, but he had been wanted for less than 3 months. The Society of Supremes cancelled the wanted order. This showed a very important problem. The Society of Supremes' judgment of the Milky Way was uncertain. In the octagonal table meeting, Cold Moon Star Master didn't have absolute control. That was to say, in the human race, if the octagonal table conference was compared to supporters of the same weight, Then the Milky Way and the Tsangua star were the competitors. The Milky Way got a greater proportion. Within the universe, there were still more humans who were close to the Milky Way. If the Tsangua galaxy threw caution to the wind, if he sent people to kill the Milky Way galaxy's old subordinates and residents, then the Tsangua galaxy would definitely be attacked by the human race. This was not the result that Tsangua wanted to see. There was another very important point. Most of the survivors from the old Milky Way galaxy were elite. There were countless overlords, supremacies, monarchs, and kings. Any commander knew that if they wanted to conquer a life star, they needed 3 times the number of soldiers. If they wanted to conquer a galaxy, they would need 30 times the number of soldiers. If what Lucy said was true, that the remnants were hiding in the newly born Milky Way galaxy, they would need to send a massive army to kill all of them. This was without the assistance of others. Given Blue Emperor and Wen Li's relationship with the Milky Way Master, they did not send reinforcements in time when the Milky Way galaxy was attacked. This time, they would not allow the tragedy to repeat itself. The 2 giants mobilized their troop. If Tsangua galaxy wanted to resist, then the Mercenary Alliance and the dueling arena would definitely participate, and so on. The entire human race would become a battlefield, and a great war would break out at any moment. Before he was fully prepared, he couldn't take such a risk. There was another very important point. In that case, he must be the one who obtained the dark spot in the Milky Way. After the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy, Starlord Pale Moon had been dispatching people to see if a new Milky Way galaxy had been born. She knew that the Milky Way Master had such means. He had sent out so many troops, but he had not received any news. There was only one possibility. The newly born Milky Way galaxy was not in the middle of the universe. The galaxy was covered, and one could only jump into it through a dark spot. If there really were remnants of the Milky Way galaxy in the newly born Milky Way galaxy, the Milky Way would belong to a star system with a master. Because they had lived in the universe before, they knew that a star system without a master would be targeted by galactic pirates. Someone was conducting a star system scan. The main star system would issue a warning. The galactic pirates would not forcefully conduct the scan. Even if they did, they would definitely be suppressed by those experts. The galactic pirates obtained a detailed map of the Milky Way galaxy. This meant that the Milky Way galaxy had no master, and there were no experts guarding it. This could also prove that the current Milky Way galaxy was a native star system. It had not truly entered the universe. Therefore, Starlord Pale Moon could confirm that the remnants were not in the Milky Way galaxy. This was also the reason why he thought that Lucy's thinking was too simple. It's impossible for the doubts in your heart to exist. I can tell you with certainty that the Milky Way that has just appeared in our sight will not have any old members of the Milky Way, so we don't need to send troops there. Star-Lord Tsangua said seriously. Then what do you mean by seeds? It is the foreshadowing left by the Milky Way Master. Starlord Pale Moon narrowed her eyes. Most likely, even if the Milky Way galaxy is destroyed, the new Milky Way galaxy can still regain its glory. In that new Milky Way galaxy, there should be someone he left behind who can replace him. Replace the Milky Way Master, Lucy exclaimed. The existence of the Milky Way Master was a height that countless experts of the human race could not surpass. Replace his position. You mean there will be someone who can become the Supreme One there? How is that possible? Starlord Pale Moon twitched her mouth. Don't think of the Milky Way as omnipotent. If he could really leave behind such a seed, why didn't he just scatter it on his silver star? If there were 2 supreme experts, even if the Milky Way Master left for the outside, the other supreme expert could still protect the race. Then what exactly are you trying to say? Lucy didn't understand. It's most likely a talent, Starlord Pale Moon shrugged. Starlord Deep Moon shrugged. You should also know that after becoming a duke, the most important thing is talent. No one can say for sure what level a person will reach. The seed I'm talking about is the talent the Milky Way master left behind. In fact, I already know who that talent is. Who? It's Ling Feng's little brother, Yi Zichen. Starlord Pale Moon let out a long sigh and shrugged. This venerable Ling Feng really knows how to find people. She actually found the seed the Milky Way master left behind. When the two of them meet, it gives me a headache. Chapter 2442. Venerable Spirit Phoenix. Lucy frowned as well. Which one? Which one do you think can make me sigh like this? Star-Lord Sangyue seemed to have aged a lot. The clone of the 9th prison that controls destruction. She's out? Once someone entered the 9th prison, they could not leave. This was an unwritten rule of the human race. It did not matter whether Venerable Spirit Phoenix, who controlled destruction, was the commander, or she was serving a sentence. Before the human race gave the nod, she couldn't leave even half a step. Leave. It meant that she resisted the decision of the human race. Then, the human race would have a handle on her. Did the human race's higher-ups let her go? Never heard of it. Star-Lord Sangyue shrugged. She probably decided to leave. Things like deploying Venerable Spirit Phoenix. It was definitely a big deal for the human race. Even if they did not enter the octagonal table, the 8 powerhouses of the human race would have to discuss with each other before making a decision. Star-Lord Sangyue had informants among the higher-ups of the human race. He did not receive any news, which meant that the human race did not let Venerable Spirit Phoenix leave. She is not afraid of the human race finding trouble with her. Sigh, that's what I'm worried about. Star-Lord Sangyue sighed. Since she dared to leave the 9th prison, it means that she is well prepared. She is not afraid of the human race finding trouble with her. I also know that she will definitely find trouble with me. This is really distressing. Why did she find you? You don't know. Star-Lord Sangyue smiled. She was sent to the 9th prison because of me. You. Lucy's eyes widened. Actually, I have no grudge against her. It's just that she was unwilling when I wanted to pursue her sister. I used a little trick to get her in. I guess she knows it was me. Star-Lord Sangyue scratched her head, feeling a little crazy. So annoying. It's all because I was young and impetuous. I did not expect to leave such a big enemy for myself. Lucy was also speechless for a long time. In order to pursue her sister, who was in charge of the Fire God race, he sent her to the 9th prison? Was this something a human could do? It seemed that Star-Lord Sangyue did not have a good relationship with the Fire God race's Venerable Spirit Phoenix. He did not get her. He had offended a powerful enemy. Then who is this Yi Zichen you're talking about? How is he the little brother of the Spirit Phoenix? Lucy asked. Don't you watch the news? Venerable Spirit Phoenix personally announced that Yi Zichen is her little brother. In truth, she's telling us that if we touch Yi Zichen, we'll become her enemies. You don't know, but the Milky Way master treats that young man really well. He even gave him the elemental sprite. Lucy was speechless. Fortunately, that little fellow's strength is still very weak. He has just reached the 9th level of the star body realm. He most likely came from that aboriginal Milky Way galaxy. He needs to participate in the struggle for supremacy, which means that he'll at most be at universe level 9 in the future. He's not worth worrying about. Star-Lord Sangyue asked. But we still have to be on guard. Lucy reminded him. He had been seen by the Milky Way master and given the elemental spirits to him. He also had a powerhouse like the Venerable Spirit Phoenix by his side. He did not dare to think about his future, but at least he would not die prematurely. You're right. Star-Lord Sangyue smiled and nodded, then rubbed her chin. We can't do anything to him, but we can go mess with the Milky Way galaxy and annoy that little guy. Huh? Lucy frowned. She really felt the urge to leave Star-Lord Sangyue. You're a majestic supreme expert. Trying to annoy a star-level expert? You're really something. Why are you looking at me like that? Star-Lord Songyue sneered. I can't catch the Milky Way master, but can't I annoy his successor? That little guy is actually the Milky Way master, isn't he? Am I bullying him? You really are a genius at logic. Lucy pursed her lips. How are you going to annoy him? I'm going to send someone to the Milky Way galaxy. Star-Lord Songyue laughed, her eyes filled with excitement. We're going to bring disaster to those aboriginals. We'll make that informant worry to death. How? We don't have the coordinates. Of course we don't. Star-Lord Songyue snapped her fingers, and 7 or 8 people landed between her and Lucy. The leader was sicker. He looked around blankly, and when he saw the blue-haired Star-Lord Songyue, he immediately knelt on the ground. Star-Lord Songyue. You know me? Star-Lord Songyue smiled, then pointed at Lucy. Do you know her? Sicker looked up at Lucy, then shook his head. Who are they? Lucy looked at Sicker and the others, puzzled. They're the ones who sold the Milky Way galaxy coordinate. Star-Lord Songyue shrugged. When I came here, I caught them along the way. It's good that you didn't buy them. We saved a lot of money. As soon as she finished speaking, Star-Lord Songyue looked at Sicker. Where's the dark spot in the Milky Way galaxy? Star-Lord, we've given the coordinates to the Bounty Alliance. It's not with me. Sicker explained. I know, but I believe you remember. Star-Lord Songyue tilted her head. Since you found the address, you should know the coordinates, right? Star-Lord, the Bounty Alliance has rules. Shoo! Star-Lord Songyue signaled for Sicker to stop. I don't care about your Bounty Alliance's rules. I just want to ask you, can you tell me the location of the Milky Way galaxy's dark spot? Sicker, who was kneeling on the ground, subconsciously swallowed. The Bounty Alliance had rules. Information sold couldn't be sold again. When the message shell was bought, the information belonged to the buyer. If someone was found to have broken the rules, if a customer complained, the Bounty Alliance would hunt down the publisher until he died. 50 billion chaos crystals. It was enough for Sicker and the others to live a carefree life. They had never thought of selling it again. But, from Star-Lord Songyue's eyes, Sicker could feel that if he didn't speak, he might die. I know. After a long silence, Sicker nodded hard. Then can you tell me the coordinates? Yes, but the Milky Way galaxy's dark spot is a bit special. I can only point it out for you, but I can't tell you. Sicker said. No problem. Star-Lord Songyue nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Lucy. You make the arrangements. Bring them to any family and tell them to send people to the Milky Way galaxy. Don't let them know that we told them, and don't use our family. Understood. Lucy nodded. Then, she grabbed Sicker and the others and left the warship. Star-Lord Songyue smiled silently. I can't send anyone. Blue Emperor, Wan-Li, you guys can't send anyone either. No one can break the rules. Chapter 2443. Sky Palace. He's here. Sitting in the sky garden looking at the world outside, Wan-Li spoke. Looking behind him, it was the head of the Universe Union Bank, Blue Emperor. The two leaders met. The attendants in the palace all left. Wan-Li walked straight to the pavilion in front of the garden and sat down. The stone table beneath the pavilion was already filled with tea. What's going on? The checks are so careful. I've said I'm Blue Emperor multiple times, and your men even checked 17 of my checkpoints. Blue Emperor sat in a chair and spoke. Ever since he entered the Virtual Empire, the universe country where the Virtual World Company headquarters was stationed, he had been met with many layers of check. The first thing he said was his identity and purpose. Still, the following checks continued. He could only cooperate, but his mood was getting heavier and heavier. From what he felt, the Virtual World Company was already preparing for war. Are you preparing to declare war? Declare war? Wan-Li laughed. That kind of allure and charm, if one wasn't a resolute person, would be hard-pressed to resist. I'm not that anxious, I'm just preparing ahead of time. You're preparing a little too early. Blue Emperor looked at the world outside the palace. Look at this headquarters planet, it's already been modified. This is the Virtual World Company headquarters. We have the most advanced technology in the universe. If Tsangyu sends people here to cause damage, any damage to any technology would be a huge blow to me. Wenli sipped her tea and muttered. He's making a move? Blue Emperor asked. I'm not sure. Wenli shrugged. During this period of time, none of his underlings have entered the virtual network. He's probably afraid I'm monitoring him. However, the more he does that, the more it proves that he's making a move. You're right. I suggest you modify the headquarters planet too, don't let it get stolen. Wenli said. I can't take it becoming like you. At this time, the planet where the Virtual World Company headquarters was stationed was already devoid of any greenery. There was high-tech war equipment everywhere. The entire planet was filled with a heavy feeling. I hope your home gets attacked. Wenli pouted. This blessing of yours is really heavy. Blue Emperor joked, retrieving a universe Rubik's Cube. Let me show you, I know you're anxious. Wenli glanced at the cube. But he didn't reach out to take it. The Blue Emperor frowned and looked at him with a strange look in his eyes. You don't want to take a look? There's no need. Wenli said, buying the spatial coordinates would at most make us feel at ease. But you should know very well that as long as Tsangyu knows about the Milky Way, she will be able to find this spatial dark spot no matter what. That's right. Blue Emperor nodded lightly. He's a smart person. He won't send his own people to the Milky Way galaxy. It's very likely that he'll send someone else, such as some unknown, small family clans to cause some trouble for Yizichen. That's the kind of person he is. To be honest, I hate that about him. Wenli seemed to be sneering as he spoke. The Blue Emperor nodded. These people didn't seem to have any contact with each other, but they actually knew each other very well. Their preferences, character, way of doing things. In fact, they knew each other like the back of their hand. From the looks of it, I bought this coordinate for nothing. The Blue Emperor shrugged and kept the coordinates. Are you sure we don't care? We can actually register and buy that star system. That way, we can at least ensure the safety of the humans there. Are you the master of the galaxy? Wenli raised her eyebrows. I'm not. That's right, me neither. Wenli spread his hands. We're not the masters of the Milky Way, so why should we care about the Milky Way? Aren't we busy enough right now? I understand what you mean, but can't you express it in a different way? It's really misleading. The Blue Emperor sighed and said. What Wenli meant was, the Milky Way belonged to the Milky Way Master. As friends, they shouldn't interfere. The whereabouts of the Master of the Galaxy was unknown. However, the leader of the Milky Way galaxy had already appeared before the eyes of the public, at least to them. That leader was none other than Yizichen. He was the one who should rule the Milky Way. Then the future of the Milky Way galaxy should naturally be decided by him. I've always been like this. Wenli shrugged and said, if Tsangyu doesn't move, we won't move. This should be a tacit understanding between the three of us. If Yizichen can't even handle some minor family clans, then that proves he doesn't have the right to be the master of the Milky Way galaxy. When that happens, it'll be perfectly justifiable for us to go. You're really rational, the Blue Emperor said. I just have a clear goal, said Wenli. I've already made all the arrangements. If he wants to ensure the safety of the planets, he'll have to register ownership of them. I'm sure the Milky Way galaxy's value will be ridiculously high. Given his wealth, he can at most buy a few planets. When that happens, send people to buy other planets. Me? The Blue Emperor frowned. Why am I the one spending money again? Because you have money, Wenli replied matter-of-factly. Hey, don't be so stingy. I bought over 20 universe nations a while ago, and I still have to raise soldiers. I need money for a lot of things. You're so close to the Milky Way Master, so what's wrong with spending a bit of money? Are you sure it's a bit? The Blue Emperor was speechless. Based on his estimates, Buying the entire Milky Way galaxy would cost at least 2 trillion primordial chaos. Even if he was the head of the Universal Union Bank, that didn't mean the bank was his. You're the one buying it. Wunli glared. Fine, fine, fine. I'll buy it. The Blue Emperor sighed. Then what else do you want? If he can get into the top 1,000, then I'll give him the Milky Way galaxy. You're joking, right? The Blue Emperor really couldn't take it anymore. He'd used 2 trillion primordial chaos to buy the Milky Way galaxy, then given it away? Was there something wrong with his brain? After all, 2 trillion primordial chaos. Even a supreme expert like him would bleed a fortune. I want to mine the Milky Way galaxy's resources. Then I don't care. Wunli shrugged. Just do it. Get as much as you can. That's more like it. The Blue Emperor nodded. In other words, Yi Zichen was buying the Milky Way galaxy himself. The Blue Emperor was just helping him pay for it first. But what if he doesn't get into the top 1,000? I didn't even consider it. Wunli blinked. If nothing unexpected happens, he'll get in. If he doesn't, don't count on him. We'll have to rely on our brothers to deal with Songyue. Lingfeng's older sister came out a while ago. When she does, we'll do some research and wipe out that beast Songyue. Chapter 2444. A bunch of people. Wunli said it casually. They were very clear that even though everyone had yet to make a move, the battle lines were already very clear. Virtual World Company, Universe United Bank. Songyu, Universe Mercenary Alliance, Universe Joint Dueling Grounds. Supreme's Association was one faction. The others were neutral. Among the neutral factions, the 4 god races, Fire God Race, belonged to the Virtual World Company faction. Universe Energy Administration. They were once a triangle with Mercenary Alliance and Dueling Ground. If a war really broke out, their faction was more likely. Dan Alliance and Weapons Hall were more likely to lean towards the Supremes Association. Then they would protect their races. Nine-Tail Race belonged to Wunli, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Race belonged to Blue Emperor. There was no doubt about these 2 races. Titan Race, Jean Tan and Milky Way Master were good friends. Even he was only close to Milky Way Master, the others were no different to him. Titan Race was unknown. Flying Serpent Race. The leader of this race had a good relationship with the leader of Mercenary Alliance. He might be pulled away. Sky Swallowing Race. The leader had a good relationship with Milky Way Master. He had a good impression of Wunli and Blue Emperor. He might be pulled in. Elf Race. The Elf Race was naturally compatible with the elements. They were a weaker version of the elemental elves. The Elf King didn't like humans. If a war really broke out, the Elf race might split and form their own faction. Then there were a few top-tier families. These families had average combat strength. They would join more or less the same faction. On the whole, Wunli and Blue Emperor's faction were about the same as Songyu's faction. The most important thing during this period was to rope in the neutral faction, to establish an advantage. More importantly, if a war really broke out, the entire universe would be in chaos. At that time, the human race would be filled with the smoke of gunpowder. If such a huge war really broke out, if this war really broke out, it wouldn't end without tens or hundreds of thousands of years. It wouldn't be as easy as Wunli made it out to be. A bunch of people. It was hard to say who would win or lose. Blue Emperor actually didn't want it to turn out this way, but the situation forced them to. He let out a long sigh. Blue Emperor didn't think about these troublesome things. Sister Ling Feng escaped from prison, right? Seems so. Wunli nodded. I didn't receive a meeting notice, maybe they did, but they didn't invite me. I wasn't invited either. According to you, I was also marginalized by them? Lan Di rolled his eyes at Wunli. She probably escaped from prison. She's really daring. There's nothing she doesn't dare to do, Wunli said. First-tier clans were exterminated just like that. Not to mention living people, not even a living pet could be found in the clan. I like her personality. Unfortunately, when I wanted to get to know her, she had already been locked up. That's true. Blue Emperor nodded as well. In a fit of rage, the Spirit Phoenix Knight slaughtered an entire top-tier family, traversing over 10 universe countries, killing every single one of them, not leaving a single bloodline behind. That incident caused a huge uproar among the human race. Not long after, she went to the 9th prison to become a commander-in-chief, and never came out again. For her to suddenly appear this time, there's an 80% chance she's seeking revenge. Wunli said, I've checked. The person who sent her in is Cold Moon, the one with cerebral palsy. She used to have a good relationship with the Milky Way Master. It won't be a problem for us to win her over. All right, I'll leave it to you, the Blue Emperor said. Sure. Wunli didn't find an excuse to decline. You don't have to stay here anymore. Be careful of Cold Moon stealing your home. Really, do you want to modify it? I can provide you with the technology. I don't need it. The Blue Emperor frowned, his face filled with disdain. To be honest, your looks are top-notch in the entire universe. However, your beauty standards are too poor. Look at what you have. Even if my headquarters were to be destroyed, I wouldn't change to look like you. Take care, I won't send you off. Wunli couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on him. She immediately ordered him to leave. Wait, before I leave, let me ask, has teacher made any moves? Him? Would he dare? Wunli squinted. Ask him, would he dare to make any moves? If he dares, then I'll make his universe instantly return to its primal state and start a war with him with a wooden stick. Awesome! The Blue Emperor gave a thumbs up. This was the confidence of a big boss of technology. Do you think I'll let our bank run away with all the money in the universe? The Blue Emperor laughed evilly. That's no use. Wunli shrugged. When we really start fighting, money won't be so important anymore. That's why I said you should spend what you need to. When the time comes, the most useless of the 8 titans will be your United Bank. F***CK. Let's go. Don't send me off. The Blue Emperor cursed. Who cares? It seemed like they parted on bad terms, but in truth, the Blue Emperor and Wunli were well aware of what to do next. Time passed quickly. At the same time as time passed, the entire universe was surging with dark current. Even the inhabitants of those planets. They could sense the tense atmosphere before the Great War. At that moment, in the second universe's vicious beast forest, ding. As the crisp sound rang out in his head, Yi Zichen slowly lowered his weapon. He was far more determined than when he'd been in the 9th layer of the star body realm. A few long scars had appeared on his face. In truth, once he reached the star system level, these scars would have healed, but Yi Zichen didn't. These scars were proof of his existence over the past 2 years. He sat on the ground, face down. He looked up at the chaotic sky and the corpses of countless vicious beasts in front of him. If these vicious beasts were still alive, you'd see that they were all general-level vicious beasts. Roar. At that moment, a winged lizard emerged from the chaos. General level. The lizard roared, as if enraged on behalf of his dead subjects. Before long, he noticed Yi Zichen sitting on the ground. Roar. From the blood on Yi Zichen's body, he could sense that this was the murderer of his subjects. Old friend, we meet again. But it seems like you don't remember me. Yi Zichen slowly climbed to his feet. He didn't pick up his weapon, but instead stretched lazily. This kind of hurts me a bit, but it also makes me curious. Say, what kind of universe is your second universe? Why does it have a subdimension like this? You've killed so many times, yet you can still be reborn and absorb cosmic energy from your bodies? I'm already at the universe level. I can sense the power of the universe. Why is that? I don't understand why your universe is so special. Is it because I'm not strong enough? The lizard ignored Yi Zichen's words. Roaring, it flapped its wings and charged over. We have divine beasts called dragons. They really are much cooler than a lizard like you. With that, Yi Zichen snapped his fingers. Several icicles fell from the sky. Goodbye. Chapter 2445. It was a general-level winged lizard. The defense of its scales was comparable to a general-level purple-tier armor. However, it was as fragile as paper in front of Yi Zichen's icicles. It was instantly killed. The winged lizard's eyes were still filled with disbelief as it fell to the ground, as if it was shocked at how it died in the hands of this universe-level human. A vast amount of cosmic energy was injected into Yi Zichen's body. Yi Zichen squatted on the ground and looked at the winged lizard's unwilling gaze. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Do you really not remember me at all? Just who gave birth to you guys? Why do you have all the memories of your race, but not me? Yi Zichen couldn't remember how many attacks he had received. There was no exception. The winged lizard had no impression of him at all. Every time, it would roar angrily, then die unwillingly. It repeated over and over again. Haha, look. From now on, I won't be happy with anyone who says that I have no attack power. The water elemental fairy appeared. At that moment, the water elemental fairy was no longer green, and had grown into a sunny youth. However, his laziness did not change at all. The moment he appeared, he found a suitable spot to lie down. Of course, he didn't lie on the ground, but on a water bed formed from high-level water elements. So what? Even if you have some attack power, can you beat me and Firebro in terms of attack power? A young man covered in lightning walked out. When he saw the water elemental fairy fall onto the bed, he shot a bolt of lightning towards it. F***ck, you want to fight? The water elemental fairy trembled from the lightning, then pointed at the young man and cursed. Stop arguing. At that moment, a calm young man with flames on his head appeared in the chaos. There was a mark of fire between his eyebrows. He also wore an armor made of fire. Compared to the others, he looked much more mature, and his voice was filled with authority. Firebro is getting stricter and stricter. A purple-robed young man beside the lightning elemental fairy said sneakily. Oil 5, look. You're the only one who hasn't worked hard recently. Right now, you're the weakest among us. The flaming young man scolded. I know, I will work hard. The electric elemental sprite let out a long breath and muttered, Third sister, look at Brother Fire. He looks like he's going to eat someone. Hasn't he always been like this year? A gentle and tall girl suddenly walked out of the crowd, and a gentle wind lingered under her feet. Sister Foam. The water elemental sprite rushed forward, but was slapped away by the fire elemental sprite. Sister Foam doesn't like fatty. Bullsh *T, am I fat? I'm fat. The water elemental sprite patted its round belly and rolled its eyes. Sister Water, do you think I'm fat? Anyway, you're not thin. As soon as he finished speaking, the other elemental elves laughed along with him. The water elemental elf blew his beard and glared at the few fellows in front of him, gritting his teeth in hatred. Damn, why am I not an assault type? I really want to kill them. Done. At that moment, Yi Zichen walked towards the group of young men and women. The elemental fairies all greeted Yi Zichen when they saw him. Star Lord. He smiled and nodded at the elemental spirit before him. Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh. In the blink of an eye. They've already grown so much. With sufficient financial support, Bailey bought the best elemental crystals for them. In the past 2 years, they've eaten at least 1 trillion elemental crystals. Fortunately, you can wait for the rewards. All 5 elemental fairies broke through. Youth. That's their current level. Star-Lord, can we go out now? We've stayed here for more than 2 years, and we're about to go stupid. The water elemental fairy spoke up. Aren't you an elemental fairy? The lightning elemental fairy asked. Don't say anything. Why do I dislike you so much? The water elemental fairy frowned. Everyone says that my attributes clash with Brother Fire. I think I clash with you. Then come and hit me. I'll give you 3 bolts of lightning. The lightning elemental fairy shrugged. Just you wait. The water elemental fairy trembled in anger. F***ck. Even if the lightning elemental fairy gave him 80 bolts of lightning, it definitely couldn't beat him in terms of attack. Just you wait until I master the ice element. If you have the energy, then focus on defense and healing, the fire elemental fairy said solemnly. Our system doesn't lack offense. Little sister wind and little brother lightning can support us. You focusing on defense and healing is the best choice. Why are you the only ones who can act mighty? I can't attack? The water elemental fairy was a bit annoyed. Yizichin rubbed his head with a smile. Offense and defense are equally important. It doesn't mean that offense is worth paying attention to. If you don't have good defense, how can there be any offense? Your water shield and water wall are actually quite good in terms of defense, and the same goes for water healing. But, the water elemental fairy frowned. OL2. The fire elemental fairy spoke up. You're the most suitable for defense out of the 5 of us. Otherwise, how are we supposed to defend? Waterbro will only be at ease with you defending, the wind elemental fairy said with a smile. Seeing the wind elemental fairy's smile, the water elemental fairy seemed to be on steroid. All right. I'll train. But if my water elemental defense and healing are above yours, then don't blame me for continuing to train the ice element. I hope you can surpass us. The lightning elemental fairy shrugged. Star-Lord, look at him. The water elemental fairy reached out his finger. OL4, keep showing off. Just you wait, I'll surpass you. With that, the water elemental fairy crawled back into Yizichin's arm. The other elemental fairies all smiled as they watched him leave. I've finally explained it to him. Yeah, he's been studying the ice element every day and using it to attack. Back when we were the Elf King, he focused on defense, while Brother Fire and I focused on offense. Why did he have to cause trouble? The lightning elemental fairy did not stop talking. Emperor Star, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you spoiled him too much. Why did you ask him to study ice? If you don't use ice, do you think he can still show off? It's my fault. Yizichin shrugged. Actually, Emperor Star isn't wrong. Ice element is also a type of control element. The 5 of us lack control. The wind elemental fairy spoke up. That's true. Suddenly, the lightning elemental fairy scratched its head. I'll go back and talk to OL2. With a whoosh, the lightning elemental fairy also crawled back into Yizichin's arm. The lightning elemental fairy gave a thumbs up. Third sis, you're the best. We'll listen to you, Brother Water and Brother Lightning. Chapter 2446. Among the Elemental Spirit. When faced with a problem and needed to make a decision, the fire elemental spirit would definitely be the one with the most authority. If it was a normal playfulness, the wind elemental spirit's words were definitely the most useful. What I said is the truth. Of course they have to listen to me, the wind elemental spirit spoke up. The wind elemental sprite spoke up. If you say it, they'll still listen. Not necessarily. The lightning elemental spirit shrugged. Sister Wind, believe it or not, if I was water just now, then Brother Shui would definitely give me an icicle. As for Brother Lei, he would definitely be struck by lightning. I don't believe it. The wind elemental spirit twitched her mouth. Then let me put it this way. What Brother Lei said just now is more or less the same as yours. We 5 elemental spirits do not lack in offensive skills. Big Brother Fire and Brother Lei are both offensive elementals in the universe. You and I are suitable to support Brother Lei and Brother Fire to increase their attacks. Then, the only one suitable for defense is Brother Shui. That's right, right? The lightning elemental spirit asked. That's right. The wind elemental spirit blinked. She did not feel like there was anything wrong with what Yizichin said. Wind can increase fire. Electricity can strengthen lightning. Water is indeed the most suitable for defense. What she didn't know was that Even now, she did not know that she was slowly jumping into the pit that the lightning elemental spirit dug. Yi Zichen also watched silently with a smile. He knew what the lightning elemental spirit wanted to do, but he didn't care and just watched silently from the side. Then tell me, was there anything wrong with what Brother Lei said just now? I don't think so. He was also emphasizing that offense needs defense. The lightning elemental spirit tilted its head. Why do you think Brother Shui didn't listen, and even argued with Brother Lei? His tone wasn't good, the wind elemental spirit said. Lil Lei's words just now were very aggressive. Anyone who heard it would not feel good. I explained it out of goodwill, so Brother Shui naturally listened. So that's how it is. The lightning elemental spirit nodded silently. Then why did Brother Lei insist on letting Brother Shui defend? You mentioned that ice can be controlled, so Brother Lei listened. There's nothing wrong with what I said. The wind elemental spirit tilted its head. The wind elemental sprite tilted its head. The ice element can be used as a control-type attack to strengthen the elemental domain. It can also restrain the enemy and restrict the enemy's movements. Also, my tone is very good, so he can naturally listen to me. Hey, Sister Feng, you seem a little silly. Suddenly, the electric elemental sprite seemed to be a little angry. You always say that what you say is right, and we all know that what you say is right, and we all understand it. Even if you don't say it, we all know it. But why can't others say it, and only you say it? What are you talking about? The wind elemental sprite frowned. He's saying that the wind baby is special. Yi Zichen chuckled. Yes. The lightning elemental sprite nodded. Special? The wind elemental sprite was very confused. What's so special about me? My tone is a little special, so you should learn from me in the future. Don't be so blunt with your words. Wind baby, you don't understand little lightning's meaning. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh and squinted his eyes with a smile. You don't understand the essence. He wants to talk about you. The main point is you. Don't you know why they listen to you? I don't know. Sister Wind shook her head. Little Lightning, do you know why not? As the wind elemental fairy spoke, Yi Zichen smiled as well. I know. The lightning elemental fairy was very pleased. Yi Zichen smiled ambiguously and muttered to himself. Big Brother Shui and Big Brother Lei are a bit interested in Big Sister Wind. Lil 5, you're seeking death. The wind elemental fairy blushed. He frowned, then reached out to grab the lightning elemental fairy's ear. I think you're itching for a beating again these few days. I didn't say anything. The lightning elemental fairy felt wronged. Emperor's star. Sister Feng pouted. When she saw Yi Zichen's ambiguous smile, she blushed even more intensely. I can't be bothered with you guys. Big Sister Wind, wait for me. The lightning elemental fairy and the wind elemental fairy returned to Yi Zichen's arm. Before they left, the lightning elemental fairy even gave Yi Zichen a thumbs up. Yi Zichen's eyes were filled with a smile, but when he looked towards the fire elemental fairy, he noticed that there was no smile on his face at all. Lil Fire. Emperor's star. The fire elemental fairy answered carefully. You don't like to smile anymore? Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh when he saw the fire elemental fairy's expressionless face. In the past, fire elemental fairies loved to laugh the most and loved to talk nonsense. In the past, he had grown and matured. He didn't like to smile anymore. Hearing that, the fire elemental fairy paused for a moment, then touched his stiff face. Maybe. He didn't know if it was due to the influence of his memories. As he grew up, more and more fragments of his memories appeared in his mind, and his personality changed from the jovial one to the calm and meticulous one. In his memories, that was his personality. In his memories, his little brothers and sisters were like this as well. He sat on his seat and watched them play around with a doting look in his eyes. Actually, he wanted to play around with his brothers as well. However, he was the older brother, the big brother of the 5 elements. He had to calm down in order to better take care of his little brothers and sisters. I feel like this is pretty good, the fire elemental fairy shrugged. His calm demeanor didn't seem like that of a 17 or 18-year-old youth at all. You're trustworthy too. Yi Zichen patted the fire elemental fairy's shoulder. Hearing that, the fire elemental fairy smiled. Yi Zichen waved his hand. The twin-winged lizard's corpse was completely incinerated. Yi Zichen also picked up all the god-bestowed equipment that had dropped. Let's go out. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh, then opened a golden door in the chaotic space. We're leaving just like that? We're already in the 9th level of the universe. What are we staying here for? Yi Zichen stretched lazily. I feel like I'm about to go dumb from facing these ferocious beasts every day. That's true. Indeed. Yi Zichen was already in the 9th level of the universe. It took him 2 years and 6 months. He was half a year ahead of the 3 years that the Spirit Phoenix Supremacy had said. He'd fought day and night to get there. During these 2.5 years, he hadn't left the second universe at all. Or rather, he hadn't taken a single step out of the ferocious beast's instance dungeon. There was no end to the killing. It allowed him to successfully reach the 9th level of the universe in such a short amount of time. With the amount of universe power he had accumulated, he was completely capable of breaking through to the warlord level. However, according to the Spirit Phoenix Supremacy, the upper limit of the Genius Tournament was the 9th level of the universe. If he exceeded that limit, then he would lose the right to participate. He had already reached that limit. There was no need for him to stay any longer. We're out. We can finally see the light of day again. Chapter 2447. A gentle breeze brushed past. Yi Zichen couldn't help but close his eyes as the warm light shone on his face. Lil, fire, did you see that? We came out. Emperor Star, you seem to have stuttered when you came out. The fire elemental fairy said. Ha! Yi Zichen frowned at the fire elemental fairy. What nonsense are you talking about? You just said left. The fire elemental fairy intentionally mimicked Yi Zichen's way of speaking. You stuttered. Is there something wrong with you? I'm just reminding you that you were a bit too emotional just now. You have to be more careful in the future. Stuttering doesn't suit your identity. I didn't. I did. Yi Zichen pointed at the fire elemental fairy for a long time. Don't talk to me. Originally, Yi Zichen had been quite happy about coming out. He wanted to shout out loud, but the fire elemental sprite completely ruined the mood. Stutter. So what if I stutter? I've spent 2.5 years in darkness. How could I not stutter from excitement? The fire elemental fairy silently followed behind Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen turned around and glared at him. Then, Yi Zichen walked towards the town angrily. About half an hour later. It's already like this? The former Liujia town had already turned into a towering city. There were many well-dressed guards standing outside the city. From afar, Yi Zichen could tell that the equipment was all made by the blacksmiths in Chaos City. They were not god-bestowed armors. Looks like he's quite the character. Yi Zichen nodded. Liujia town was the same. Thinking about it, the other towns with Dezhou around should not be too different from this one. Submit or perish. I'm sure they all know what to choose. I nearly forgot. It's about time to undo the message block on the virtual network and the game. In order to focus, Yi Zichen blocked all sources of information. Now that he was in the 9th level of the universe, he could spread the news to the public. At that very moment, before Yi Zichen could unblock the messages, he saw several guards kick an elder to the ground at the city gate. F***CK off. How many times have I told you that you need to pay an entrance fee to enter the city? Do you not understand? The guards' eyes were unfriendly. Although the surrounding guards said that they didn't do anything, they didn't care about this matter either. Grandpa. When the old man was kicked to the ground, a 17 or 18-year-old girl ran out. Grandpa, are you all right? The girl looked at the old man with concern. She helped him up and patted the dust off his body. Not long after, the girl turned around and glared angrily at the long-faced guard. What right do you have to hit me? Beat someone up? Which eye of yours saw me hit someone? The long-faced guard frowned. It was you who wanted to force your way into the city. As a guard of the city, how could I let you in? I'm doing this to ensure the safety of the city. Why would I hit you? So what if I hit you? Who forced their way into the city? The young girl said. The long-faced guard glared at them. You have to pay the entrance fee to enter the city. This is a rule that has been in place since last year. You want to enter the city without paying, aren't you forcing your way in? We paid the entrance fee, cried the girl, glaring. Is that the entrance fee? The entrance fee is 10,000 star coins. What did you give us? The long-faced guard shouted angrily. 10,000? The girl froze. We heard that the entrance fee is clearly 2,000. Why are you charging 10,000? I want to see your mayor. The Emperor's star. The fire elemental fairy frowned. The guard was clearly looking for trouble. This city belonged to the Emperor's star. As the Emperor's star's elemental fairy, he had to take care of things. Yizichin raised his hand to indicate that he didn't need to rush. Interesting. You had to pay an entrance fee to enter the city. In truth, Yizichin could understand this. Back in Chaos City, they'd set it up like this. That was, the entrance fee was 500 star coins. Here, it was 2,000. Perhaps Chicano had set it up in consideration of the fact that this was a high-level city. But judging from the current situation, the guard seemed to be raising the price on purpose for personal gain. To run into this sort of thing as soon as he left seclusion was actually pretty good. He could use this opportunity to reorganize the cities. As for that girl, no matter how he looked at it, she didn't seem like someone who would suffer a loss. In any case, he wasn't in a rush, so there was no harm in watching. The fire elemental fairy saw the look in Yizichin's eyes. Yizichin roughly understood what he meant. The two of them stood less than 100 meters outside the city and watched the reckless guard put on a show. The entrance fee of 2,000 is paid to the town. We brothers are just standing here. Shouldn't you give us some compensation for our hard work? You still want to see our mayor? The long-faced guard couldn't help but laugh, his eyes brimming with disdain as he looked at the girl. Why don't you take a look at your status first? Our town's mayor is in charge of a dozen or so towns. He's so busy every day. He doesn't have time to care about you. Why should we pay you for your hard work? The town pays you, so it's only natural that you work here. The girl argued. Little girl, don't talk nonsense with me. Either you pay 10,000 or you scram. Don't tell me it's useless. Do you know how much I spent to get this position? If I couldn't earn it back, why would I come work in a shitty place like this? You. The girl bit her lip and clenched her fists. What? Do you want to fight me? The long-faced guard's expression darkened as he gripped the longsword by his waist. The girl really couldn't endure it anymore. She grabbed the guard's neck and kicked him. You dare to hit me? The long-faced guard was enraged. He pulled out his longsword and swung it down towards the girl. Emperor's star. The fire elemental fairy revealed an anxious expression. Yizichin continued to tell him not to worry. Do you think something will happen to that girl? No. Then what are you afraid of? Yizichin frowned. That long-faced guard is naturally not her match, but there are so many guards here. I'm afraid that girl. The fire elemental fairy squinted his eyes, which were filled with worry and worry. Yizichin looked at the fire elemental fairy's face for half a minute. Lil, fire. The question I'm going to ask you right now is very important. Please answer me seriously. The fire elemental fairy felt the seriousness in Yizichin's gaze. The fire elemental fairy's heart was filled with confusion. Then, he nodded with a frown. Emperor Star, please ask. Then, he saw Yizichin look at the fire elemental fairy with a strange expression. He let out a sigh and asked with a frown. Can you elemental fairies marry humans? Chapter 2448. Ah! The fire elemental fairy was completely dumbfounded by Yi Zichen's question. I was thinking about what the Emperor's star was going to ask for his expression to be so serious. Who would have thought that? Elemental fairies can marry humans? What kind of question is that? Answer me, this is an important question. Yi Zichen asked seriously. Sure. The fire elemental fairy hesitated for a moment. We elemental fairies are a type of human that is formed from elements. We are just a rather high-level human. Understood. Yi Zichen revealed a smile in his eyes. What's with that look? The fire elemental fairy's expression instantly changed when she saw Yi Zichen's ambiguous expression. Say, don't think too much, I'm just. Shoo, I don't need to say anything. Yi Zichen covered the elemental fairy's mouth. At that moment, the girl's battle with the city guards had already reached its climax. The long-faced guard was clearly no match for the girl. The moment the girl stomped the long-faced guard onto the ground, the other guards also charged forward. In terms of one-on-one combat, the girl was not afraid of the guards at all. However, if 10 odd guards charged forward at the same time, she would find it very hard to hold them off. Kill him! The long-faced guard covered his bruised face and roared angrily. The girl clenched her teeth and gripped the silver dagger tightly with her right hand. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, the guards that charged forward were all sent flying into the air. There was also a guard who waved a long blade. Just as the blade was about to land in front of the girl's face, his hand was suddenly grabbed by a black-robed young man. 10 odd men bullying a little girl. Do you have any shame? Yi Zichen chucked the guard away, then looked at the girl in front of him with a perverted look. Girl, I think you're pretty good. Are you interested in becoming my daughter-in-law? What did you say? The girl doubted her own ears. Do you see that stupid brat over there? That's my eldest son. What do you think of him? Yi Zichen smiled. The girl was actually still confused. She had been prepared to fight it out with the guards, but Yi Zichen suddenly appeared. Before she could even see his movements clearly, the guards were all sent flying. Just as she was about to thank him, Yi Zichen suddenly said something very strange. Daughter-in-law. Now, she was suddenly asked to evaluate the young man who seemed to have flames burning above his head. Why was his head on fire? Was he angry? I'm all right. The girl hesitated for a moment before saying, I don't think he's that stupid. Do you like him? Imperial Star. The fire elemental fairy covered her face and hurried over. She nodded apologetically at the girl, then grabbed Yi Zichen. What are you talking about? I'm looking for a wife for you. Yi Zichen shrugged. I thought you liked her since you were so nervous about her. But I think she's pretty good. She's beautiful, and most importantly, she's talented. Most importantly, she has a hot temper. She'll definitely be able to teach you a lesson in the future. Don't talk anymore. The fire elemental fairy covered Yi Zichen's mouth, then looked at the girl apologetically. Girl, I'm sorry. My master's head was struck by lightning when he was young, so he's always crazy. Woo. The girl nodded. Don't take what he said to heart. The fire elemental sprite spoke again. It's okay. The girl shook her head. Are you angry? I'm not angry. Then why is there a fire burning on your head, and it's getting bigger and bigger? The girl pointed at the top of the fire elemental sprite's head. Great, you have accomplices. At this moment, the long-faced man's face was filled with anger, and his heart was burning with raging flames. Just you wait. You beat up the city guards and want to force your way through. None of you will be able to escape. The fire elemental sprite frowned upon hearing this. The long-faced guard subconsciously took half a step back. He was not a fool. He could feel that these people in front of him were not people to be trifled with. What are you doing? You still want to act fierce? Do you know who I am? Looks like this official has a backer. Yi Zichen pushed the fire elemental fairy's hand away. Then let me ask you, Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, the long-faced guard shouted angrily. Are you sure you don't want to ask? I might have a very powerful background. Do you really not want to know who I am? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. For some reason, when the long-faced guard saw Yi Zichen's calm expression, the long-faced guard let out a deep sigh. Who are you? He knew all of the important figures in the city, and he also had an impression of the people in charge of the surrounding towns. However, he had never seen Yi Zichen before. Even so, when he saw how confident Yi Zichen was, he didn't dare to act too arrogantly. His backer was actually only an average person in this town. I am the legendary warrior of justice, the one who will help when I see injustice, the one who will fight back wherever there is oppression, the one who has the guts of steel and the aura of a hero. As he spoke, Yi Zichen intentionally struck a very cool pose. The fire elemental sprite covered her face with her hands. I only have one thought in my mind. Hurry up and take my Emperor Star away. King tricked me. The guard's face turned completely red. Just as he was about to attack, Yi Zichen suddenly spoke up. It seems like I, a warrior of justice, can't scare you. Then, don't worry. Do you know who's behind me? You. The long-faced guard was about to curse out loud, but when he saw Yi Zichen's gaze, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Who's behind you? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Yi Zichen patted the guard's shoulder with a smile. Behind me stand millions upon millions of righteous, hot-blooded, promising young men. With him around, I'm not afraid of any difficulties or obstacles. I'm invincible. A promising youth. The long-faced man instantly clenched his fist. Yi Zichen suddenly reached out his hand. Wait, it seems that even a young man can't intimidate you. Then, don't you want to know who my little brother is? My little brother in your town is F***CKU. The long-faced guard didn't listen to him at all. He had already been fooled twice. Did he really think he was a fool? Beat him up. Say, young man, why don't you have any patience? Yi Zichen shook his head silently. My little brother is actually really amazing. He has quite a bit of status in your town. With that, Yi Zichen looked up and shouted. Dijia, your boss is about to get beaten up. Hurry up and help. Chapter 2449. Within a restaurant in the city. A young man with greasy hands sat on a rattan chair, while all sorts of delicacies were piled in front of him. Even so, a middle-aged man with a bulging belly was still recommending delicacies to him. 10 odd beautiful women stood behind the middle-aged man, each of them holding different dishes in their hands. Lord Dijou, this is a new specialty of our restaurant. Please have a taste. The owner waved his hand with a smile, causing several beautiful women to walk over with silver trays. Sure. Put it all here. The young man waved his hand. The middle-aged man quickly signaled the guards with his eyes, then placed all the dishes on the table. My lord. Speak. The young man glanced at the middle-aged man, then crunched down on a large bone in his hand. This lowly one has a daughter. Dijou, your boss is about to get beaten up. Hurry up and help. All of a sudden, a loud shout sounded out from within the restaurant. The youth sitting on the rattan chair dropped the bone almost instantly. After running 2 steps, perhaps feeling that it was a pity, he grabbed a pig's leg. Get the Liu family to settle the bill. With that, the young man charged out with the pig leg in his mouth. Yi Zichen, who was outside the city, shouted 3 times. The long-faced young man, who was about to make a move, was stunned. Dijou. That's not the Lord Dijou of the town. The fact that the town was able to be unified was all thanks to Lord Dijou and the Liu family. This guy is actually calling Lord Dijou. Scared, right? Yi Zichen looked at the long-faced guard proudly, then put his hands on his waist. The fire elemental fairy covered her face. She felt like the Emperor Star had been living a life of darkness in the dungeon for the past few years. Not only did the Emperor Star's strength increase rapidly, but he also seemed to have become a bit stupid. They're clearly just a bunch of 9th-level domain realm guards. I can deal with it with a sneeze. Why do I have to cause trouble like this? Even if I don't want to do it myself. The Fire Elemental Fairy was more than happy to take care of these ignorant people. If it really doesn't work, she could send a transmission to Bai Yao and have the Lu family deal with them. What is he doing? Ha ha ha, you are the only one who knows Lord Dizhou? After staring blankly for half a minute, the long-faced man clutched his stomach, as if he were about to burst from laughter. Who do you think His Excellency Dizhou is? He's one of the founding fathers of the Upheaval Alliance's 17 towns. His Excellency Dizhou carved out this blueprint with his fists and feet. How dare a nobody like you get to know him? How dare you say that Lord Dizhou is your little brother? I think you're really courting death. Look at you. Yi Zichen shrugged with a look of regret. You know Dizhou quite well. Do you know who destroyed the Lu family before Lu Jia became the mayor? Lord Dizhou, of course. The long-faced man cupped his hands towards the east. Who did you say? Yi Zichen glared at the fire elemental sprite. Lil, fire, look at this little bastard. He said that the Lu family was destroyed by Di Ho. I don't know you. The fire elemental sprite turned around. When Yi Zichen saw the sprite's expression, he decided not to bicker with it. Then do you know who the Upheaval Alliance is? Lord Chicano. Go F***ck yourself. Yi Zichen slapped him on the head. The Upheaval Alliance is mine, you know? Why are you acting like an idiot? Just look at the surface. Those people you're talking about are my little brothers, understand? I think you've lost your mind. The long-faced guard slapped Yi Zichen's hand away. The Upheaval Alliance is yours, and Lord Dizhou is your little brother. Why don't you just say that this entire planet belongs to you? Heh, you're right. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then looked at the long-faced guard with a hint of approval in his eyes. This planet is mine. Of course, it's not yet, but it will be soon. Once he left the land of chaos, Yi Zichen was prepared to deal with the problems he needed to deal with here. First was Huaxia. If Huaxia didn't die, Yi Zichen wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. If he didn't die, he'd be disgusting. For the sake of that dead elemental sprite, Yi Zichen had to kill Huaxia. After that was the unification of the entire planet. Of course, this was a relatively large project. If he wanted to carry it out, he'd need everyone to work together and raise the Upheaval Alliance's overall strength. Unification of the entire planet. Only then could he expand to other planet. Otherwise, if he ran off without even taking care of his own planet, he'd make enemies both inside and outside. His already shaky foundation couldn't afford to fail like this. Of course, he didn't think it'd take long to unify the entire planet. In just 2 years, the Upheaval Alliance had the former chief engineer of the Virtual World Corporation. He was sure that their technology had advanced by leaps and bounds. Because technology wasn't like other industries. Once you understood it, you could start all over again, and your efficiency would increase exponentially. Furthermore, there were so many cities supplying them with resources. It was entirely possible that the Upheaval Alliance had already finished developing energy guns and weapons. They were just waiting for Yi Zichen to give them the order. Ha 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 ha. The long-faced guard laughed uproariously. Are you really an idiot, or are you just playing the fool? The entire planet's future is yours. How dare you say that? Since you're an idiot, I can't be bothered to quibble with you. Hurry up and take your people with you and scram. Don't be an eyesore. Suddenly, Yi Zichen's expression darkened. The guard instinctively gulped. Who are you talking to? HM? Did you forget that you just got beaten up? Young man, did I make you feel too relaxed talking to you? Did I make you forget that even if everything I said just now was a lie, I can still do whatever I want to you? And you guys, what do you think? Yi Zichen tilted his head and glanced at the guards he'd just tossed out. They all gripped their weapons, but for a moment, they didn't dare answer. The long-faced guard's breathing grew ragged. I'm telling you, don't do anything rash. This is the Upheaval Alliance's city, and the Liu family guards it. If you dare attack our guards, don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Yi Zichen gently patted the dust off the guard's shoulder. Suddenly, an iron shovel fell from the sky and smashed into the ground, creating a 2-meter-long and half-meter-deep pit. At the same time, Dijie frowned and walked over. He looked at the guard, who'd been scared senseless. I'll dig a hole for you. Jump yourself. Don't make me do it myself. That way you'll die a more dignified death, and I won't have to wash my hands. My hands are covered in oil, and it took me more than half a year to make them. Chapter 2450. D. Lord Dijou. The iconic shovel. Everyone in the town knew that the shovel was Lord Dijou's weapon. When he saw the shovel, the long-faced guard was scared stiff. When he saw Dijie land in front of him and made him jump into the pit, he was so scared that he knelt on the ground. Lord Dijou. The guards outside also kneeled on the ground and trembled, not daring to raise their heads. Boss! Dijou was in no mood to care about the long-faced guard. He ran over excitedly with a joyful look in his eyes. Boss, you're finally back. I missed you to death. Is that so? Yi Zichen tilted his head and looked at Dijou's chubbier face. Did you miss me? Look at how chubbier you are. You really ate a lot these past 2 years. It's all because of you, boss. Thus, Dijie became the scapegoat for Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen looked at him. Speak properly. I missed you because I couldn't see, boss. I missed you, but I couldn't see you, so I could only turn my longing for boss into appetite. Look, the more I eat, the more I miss boss. Dijou wiped away his tears with his left hand, while he secretly took a few bites of the pig leg with his right hand. F*CKU. Yi Zichen kicked Dijou's butt, then slapped him on the head. Do you have any shame? What shame? How much can it be sold for? Dijou smiled. If it can be sold for money, then I'll just sell it shamelessly. If it can't be sold for money, then what use do I have for it? You're F*King right. I actually don't know how to retort. Yi Zichen actually felt like there was nothing wrong with what Dijou said. Hee. Dijou laughed idiotically, then turned around and pointed at the long-faced guard, who was sitting on the ground in shock. Boss, he's the one who wants to beat you up, right? Yes, it's him. Yi Zichen reached out his hand like an elementary school student complaining. Dijou's expression instantly darkened. Squinting his eyes, he slowly walked up to the long-faced guard. You want to beat up my boss? You really have guts. Hurry up and jump. Don't make me unhappy. If I'm unhappy, I'll beat your head into juice with my shovel. Dijie's men. The long-faced guard crawled up on his knees. This lowly one really didn't know that this was you. This lowly one knows his mistake. Please spare this lowly one's life. Dijou did not even look him in the eye. The guard hesitated for a moment, then crawled in front of Yi Zichen and kowtowed. My lord, a great person like you, please don't hold grudges against me and let me go. Hearing that, Yi Zichen squatted on the ground with a smile, then tilted his head and looked at the guard, who was about to be scared out of his wits. Scared? Weren't you quite arrogant just now? Why are you begging for mercy now? If I were you, even if Dijou was here, I would also point at him and my nose arrogantly and say that you too can kill me if you have the guts. Wouldn't it be more dignified to die like that? Yi Zichen patted the guard's face. The fear in the guard's eyes had already reached its peak. My lord, this lowly one really knows his mistake. Please, high platform, let me go. The long-faced guard kowtowed to the ground. Just as he kowtowed, a large number of high-ranking officials surged out of the city. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Lord Chicano, Bai Yao, Wei Yuan and Chicano, along with many others, all walked in front of Yi Zichen. Lord Yi. City Lord. As he looked at the newcomers and the way they addressed Yi Zichen, the long-faced guard's despair grew infinitely greater. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes at the people in front of him. Chicano. This subordinate is here. Come over here. Chicano walked up behind Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen didn't doubt his loyalty in the slightest, nor did he doubt the way he handled things. He watched as Chicano was called away. Bai Yao and Wei Yuan both had a bad feeling. Lord Yi, the two of you must have had a hard time managing the town during the 2 years I was away. Yi Zichen chuckled. Not at all. Bai Yao and Wei Yuan also shook their heads. During this period of time, I believe that both of your clans have developed greatly. Compared to before, have your clans expanded? It's all thanks to your guidance, Lord Yi. Bai Yao said. Don't be so nervous, I won't do anything to you. With that, Yi Zichen waved towards the girl and the elder who was pushed down. The girl supported the old man and slowly walked up. Let me ask you. Yi Zichen looked at Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. Who paid for the entrance fee? Milord, it's me. Chicano said. The entrance fee is a continuation of our Chaos City's rules. Considering that after the city is built, everything needs to be developed in a stable manner. The city's interior also needs to be repaired and maintained, which is why I proposed this idea. How much did you ask for? Yi Zichen asked. 500 star coins. All right. Yi Zichen nodded solemnly. Then did you actually pay it according to 500 as well? No, Chicano shook his head. The specifics were carried out by Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. Of course, the city lord's manor received 500 per person. Excellent. Yi Zichen's smile grew wider and wider. Then he narrowed his eyes at Bai Yao and Wei Yuan. You paid according to how much? Sir Yi, we gave the order according to Sir Chicano's suggestion, Yi Zichen said. Bai Yao hurriedly replied. Is that so? Yi Zichen smiled at her. But why did I hear that it really was 2,000? Also, I heard that the money ended up in your Liu family's hands? You paid 500 to the city lord's manor, and kept 1,500 for yourselves. The two families split it equally. You've earned quite a bit over the past 2 years, right? Your Excellency. Bai Yao's eyes were filled with terror. The Liu family definitely didn't do that. So you're saying I'm lying? Yi Zichen smiled. That's absolutely not what I meant. But, Lord Yi, please believe me. I really did follow the 500 orders, said Bai Yao. Then that's a dereliction of duty on your part. Yi Zichen's attitude towards Bai Yao didn't soften just because he'd interacted with her before. The entrance fee is 2,000 star coins in total. Actually, that's nothing. Yi Zichen smiled at Bai Yao, then turned to the girl and elder. Tell him, how much did this beast ask you for? 10,000 per person. What? Bai Yao's expression instantly changed. Yi Zichen smiled at Bai Yao. Look, this is the city I gave you to manage. Do you really think you've done your job? Chapter 24:51. From Yi Zichen's words, Bai Yao could also feel that he wanted to use this to threaten the people in town. Otherwise, a small fry like the long-faced guard wasn't worth Yi Zichen getting so many people involved. Don't worry, Lord Yi. We will definitely deal with this person seriously. From today onwards, I will also reselect the civil servants in the city. I definitely won't let something like this happen again in the future, Bai Yao said confidently. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then walked to her side and patted her shoulder. I'm the future, not the Lord Yi you speak of. Remember what I said. Understood? With that, Yi Zichen and the fire elemental fairy directly entered the city. Before entering, Yi Zichen turned to Bai Yao. That girl seems to be in a bit of trouble. Deal with it properly. Understood. Understood. Yi Zichen returned to town. When Yi Zichen entered the town, he noticed that there was a huge change. All the buildings that looked like they were from ancient times had disappeared. What replaced them were modern buildings. There's progress in the research department? Yes, Lord City Lord, Chicano nodded. Right now, our city's technology has already reached the level of a level 1 civilization. Although there is still a huge gap between us and a peak-level civilization, our technology is already far ahead of this place. Level 1 civilization. Earth's civilization level was only at level 0. 5. Yi Zichen didn't expect that their technology had already surpassed Earth's in less than 3 years' time. Yi Zichen looked up. Countless airships sped through the sky, while the city was also filled with automated equipment. Not bad. Yi Zichen was very satisfied with the current situation of the city. I can't tell from the outside that it's actually so developed. Actually, our city walls are also constructed with advanced technology. The main reason why it looks like that is because we camouflaged the city walls, Chicano explained with a smile. This way, we can avoid attracting the attention of others and allow them to enter our city to investigate. That's a good idea. During the time you weren't here, we also connected this area to our previous area. Right now, the residents here are already interacting with the residents that used to live there. Chicano continued to report. Yi Zichen had absolutely no qualms about leaving Chicano to handle these matters. Yi Zichen didn't have to worry about whether his actions would have an unnecessary impact. However, what Yi Zichen cared about was, Chicano, my surname is Yi. You told Bai Yao and the others about this, right? Just as Yi Zichen finished speaking, Chicano's expressionless face suddenly froze. My lord, I've thought about it for a long time, and you're the only possibility. Yi Zichen looked at Chicano with a smile and patted his shoulder. No worries, I actually don't mind. I just hope that you can try your best not to say such things to them in the future. No matter what, this is the second universe, and not the first universe we live in, right? When Yi Zichen mentioned the first universe, Chicano paused for a moment. Yi Zichen walked towards the city lord's manor with a smile. Wow, my mansion is really impressive. Regarding Yi Zichen's information, no one in the second universe knew about this. Yi Zichen hadn't said anything about himself at all. Over here, he was the future. Regardless of whether it was the residents of the second universe or the friends he made here, he was the future. All of a sudden, Bai Yao said that he was Mr. Yi? Why? There was only one possibility. Someone said his identity, and Bai Yao remembered it. Yi Zichen only had so many subordinate. Han Qing and company belonged to the second universe, so they didn't have to think about it. In that case, the only people who could possibly know about him were the people he had recruited. Chicano was the one who interacted with Bai Yao and company the most. Naturally, the first person Yi Zichen thought of was him. Yi Zichen had already suspected where these employees came from a long time ago. They definitely weren't virtual data. After the Virtual World Corporation announced the truth of the second universe's existence, it was already proven that they weren't data, but real existences. Where did they come from? They definitely came from the first universe. What surprised Yi Zichen was that Chicano actually knew about him. It might have been the Virtual World Corporation who leaked it to him. Or it might have been something else. Of course, Yi Zichen wasn't really afraid. The head of the Virtual World Corporation, Wen Li, was an old friend of the Master of the Galaxy. If she knew that he was one of the Master of the Galaxy's people, then she probably wouldn't do anything bad to him. If she didn't know, then she would eventually find out. Thus, the problem returned to what I was talking about earlier. All in all, Yi Zichen wasn't afraid. The Chicanos who were named were distracted and absent-minded along the way. Chicano, this subordinate is here. I'm just asking you out of pure curiosity. If you can answer, then answer. If you can't, then I won't force you. Of course, don't worry, I still trust you. Yi Zichen said. My lord, please ask. Chicano said. You're actually a human from the first universe, right? Yes. Your student Winnie and the people I recruited are also humans from the first universe, right? Yes. Do you belong to the Virtual World Corporation? This time, Chicano didn't reply. Yizichin looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Then let me ask you this. Do all of you know about me? No, Chicano shook his head. Chicano shook his head. I'm the only one who knows your name. I went to ask because I wanted to know what kind of person you're loyal to. I don't know about Winnie and the others, but your general might know. But don't worry, I only know your name. I don't know anything else. Okay. Yizichin nodded, then let out a sigh. Do you want to come and see me in reality? It's not really convenient for this subordinate, Chicano shook his head. Hearing that, Yizichin nodded as well. All right, then I understand. Thus, Chicano lowered his head. Yizichin frowned once again. What's your strength in the first universe? You can tell me that, right? Actually, I'm rather curious. This subordinate. Chicano let out a deep sigh, as if he had made a decision. This subordinate is of the sovereign level. Chapter 2452. The fire elemental sprite was stunned. Venerable realm. That was already the peak of the human race, yet someone like that was willing to be Yizichin's subordinate. It wasn't that he didn't think Yizichin was qualified. Absolutely. All of this was too unimaginable. Venerable. Yizichin squinted his eyes and nodded with a smile, while Chicano stood beside him. What level is Winnie? Conferred kingship. I understand. Yizichin pursed his lips with a smile. Then what do you think of my decision? I want to recruit more people like you. Do you think it's possible? I understand what you mean. Chicano shook his head. But I don't recommend you do that. All right, I understand. Yizichin didn't ask for the reason, because he already knew everything. He already knew where Chicano and Winnie came from. It was just that he had not expected the Virtual World Corporation to be so omnipotent that they could extend their reach to such a place. Then I beg of you, recruit all the people you think are worth recruiting. Even if the universe fuses, none of you will betray me, right? This subordinate will never betray you, Chicano said solemnly. Then I'll leave it to you. As he watched Chicano leave the manor, Yizichin instantly collapsed to the ground. Imperial Star. Don't worry about me. Yizichin's hands trembled as he sat on the ground. If what Chicano said was true, then even if the universes fused, what did he have to fear? Emperor Star, are you surprised that he's a venerable? The fire elemental sprite asked. No. Yizichin shook his head. He was not surprised by Chicano's strength at all. Then you. If you knew where they came from, I believe you wouldn't be surprised. Yizichin smiled. The Emperor Star knows where they came from. If I'm not wrong, they came to the human race's 9th prison. The 9th prison. The fire elemental sprite was stunned. F***ck. Even Yizichin found it too shocking. 9th prison. The Virtual World Corporation had actually extended their hands into the 9th prison. What did Wunli want to do? Yizichin guessed that the Virtual World Corporation must have made some sort of agreement with Chicano for him to be so loyal. Or to save them. The Virtual World Corporation would protect their relatives in the outside world. And what they needed to do was to swear an oath with their hearts. Only then would the Virtual World Corporation be able to confirm their sincerity. Of course, at Chicano's level, he wouldn't blindly believe it. This also meant that when he swore the spirit oath, the person responsible for him in the Virtual World Corporation might have been Wunli herself. Similarly, he swore with his heart. That was the only reason why this venerable one would willingly appear with such an identity. Of course, Yizichin didn't feel like Chicano was assigned to him by the Virtual World Corporation. Obtain an equipment shop. Before Yizichin succeeded, everyone had a chance. If it wasn't for him, Chicano and Wunli might have gone to work for someone else. For some unknown reason, Yi Zichen could sense that the Virtual World Corporation was plotting something big. In this game of chess, everyone was a pawn. All of them, including Yi Zichen. I found it! At this moment, Bailey also shouted. Then, a virtual network message appeared in front of Yi Zichen. Chicano. Sage treading C. Sent to the human's 9th prison for economic fraud. Wenli King Tianyan. Sent to the human's 9th prison for economic fraud. I knew it! Yi Zichen waved his fist with all his might. The fire elemental fairy was also shocked when she saw the message. The Virtual World Corporation is too crazy. They actually reached their hands into the 9th prison. I reckon that the other prisons already belong to them. Bailey, who stood on Yi Zichen's shoulder, shouted. Lil, fire, you have the memories of a former elemental fairy king. Then you should know what Wenli is doing. Do you know? Yi Zichen asked. The fire elemental fairy shook her head. Although he had already recovered some of his memories, it didn't mean that he could remember everything. What's more, Wenli was in frequent contact with the Master of the Galaxy. The elemental fairy kings all had important roles that they had to guard, so they didn't follow the Master of the Galaxy for a long time. This Virtual World Corporation. It's really too unbelievable. The next day, after Yi Zichen asked for Chicano's identity, and was asked to help Sue find trustworthy subordinates, Chicano really got into the operation. At noon, in the main hall of the City Lord's Manor, 40-odd people stood in front of Yi Zichen, all of whom Chicano had brought over personally. Sire. Greetings, Lord City Lord. Yi Zichen didn't dare to be careless in front of these humans who could enter the 9th prison. Sire, these are all trustworthy people that I have a good relationship with. Chicano pointed at a one-eyed man. One-eyed, mythical. Sovereign level. At that moment, Yi Zichen already knew that their titles were actually a representation of their actual strength. Mythical level Chicano sovereign. Legendary level Wenli was a king. Then according to this, legendary level was a king level. Outstanding was a duke. Perfect was a marquis. Elite was a count. Excellent commander. Good general. Even the weakest normal one was a warlord. Actually, from this, it could be seen that in the eyes of the Virtual World Corporation, universal warlords were the beginners of the human race. According to Chicano's introduction, there were 2 mythical creatures, 4 legendary creatures, 16 legendary creatures, 12 excellent level creatures, 7 perfect level creatures, and 9 elite level creatures. They corresponded in this manner. Even the weakest person standing here was a titled Earl. Are these all from the 9th prison? Yi Zichen whispered into Chicano's ear. When they heard that Yi Zichen knew that they were from the 9th prison, they were stunned. Chicano wasn't too surprised either. Since Yi Zichen was suspicious, then he could use the virtual network to find out their identities. No. There are also people from the 8th and 7th prisons. If that was the case, then it might really be as Bailey had said, that the Virtual World Corporation had already infiltrated all 9 prisons of the human race. It was said that the 9 great prisons were equivalent to 1/10 of the human race's overall strength. The Virtual World Corporation had done this. Did Wenli want to overthrow the current supreme power of the human clan? I'm not familiar with the people in the other prisons. Some of them have already been recruited. Chicano said, this subordinate can only find these for you. Please forgive me. Chapter 24:53. Forgive me? Yi Zichen stared blankly for half a minute. How could I possibly blame you? When he saw Chicano's apologetic expression, Yi Zichen hurriedly walked up and grabbed his arm. Multiple sovereigns. There were dozens of kings and titled battle pet warriors. Even some first-rate family clans might not be able to muster such a force. Yi Zichen couldn't be happier. Your Excellency, there's something I need to tell you in advance. Chicano was silent for a moment, then said, You know that we're all from the human prison. Yi Zichen nodded. No matter what the reason is, we've entered the human prison, which means we're sinners. The other prisons might be fine, but we're prisoners of the 7th, 8th, and 9th prisons. In the eyes of the human race, we've committed serious crimes. So what? Yizichin frowned. If the higher-ups of the human race come looking for trouble with us, can you guarantee our safety? Or rather, can you withstand the pressure of the human race's higher-ups? In an instant, the other people in the city lord's mansion also looked over. They were all waiting for Yizichin's answer. Pressure from the human race. Yizichin didn't answer right away. He needed time to seriously consider this question. If Chicano hadn't brought it up, he would have forgotten. These people were all prisoners. From what the Venerable Spirit Phoenix had told him, he knew that these prisoners might have been forced to enter the prison, or they might have been wrongly accused. It didn't matter what the reason was. In the eyes of the human race's higher-ups, in the eyes of most humans, they were heinous criminals. They were currently in the second universe of the virtual network. No one knew their identities. But if they were willing to join the Upheaval Alliance on the day the universes merged, would the higher-ups of the human race tolerate their existence? When that happened, the Upheaval Alliance would become everyone's target. Pressure from all sides would also come one after another. Whether or not Yizichin could withstand that pressure was the most important question. Half an hour passed. Yizichin pondered it silently. No one said anything to stop him. I've thought it through. Suddenly, Yizichin looked up at the crowd. They looked at him, their eyes shining. They wanted to hear what he had to say. I think this matter is actually relative. Yizichin hesitated for a moment, then squinted his eyes at them. Whether or not we can withstand the pressure from the human race is also the same as whether or not the human race can withstand the pressure from us. His voice fell. Everyone was in an uproar. They never expected Yizichin to say something like that. I know you, and I understand you. Yizichin smiled. Actually, most of you were forced into prison, right? Quite a few people's expressions changed. Yizichin laughed once more. I know Venerable Spirit Phoenix, who is in charge of destruction. She is the commander of your 9th prison. She told me about the 9th prison a while ago. You know Boss Feng? One Eye stepped out of the crowd and grabbed Yizichin's arm. Where is Boss Feng now? One Eye. Chicano frowned. One Eyed also realized that he was a little agitated, so he released his arm and said, I'm sorry, I was a little emotional just now. But lad, Venerable Spirit Phoenix is very important to the 9th prison, and even the 8th and 7th prisons. When did you get in contact with her a while ago? Almost 3 years ago, Yizichin replied truthfully. Almost 3 years ago, Yizichin replied truthfully. He hadn't gone anywhere in the second universe for the past 2.5 years. He couldn't exactly say that it was just now. More than 2 years. One Eye's gaze turned a bit dejected. Yizichin smiled. The reason why it's more than 2 years is because I've been cultivating here. You can ask Chicano about the specifics. He was one of the earliest batch of people to come here. Actually, cultivating here has a huge impact on the first universe. Chicano nodded lightly when he heard this. The surrounding experts raised their eyebrows. Yizichin smiled once again. Don't worry. Yizichin smiled. Venerable Spirit Phoenix is waiting for me outside. We've been together pretty much every day for the past few years, so if you need me to tell her anything, I can tell her later. What? This time, it wasn't just One Eye, the others were shocked as well. Big Sis Phoenix is with you. How has Big Sis been recently? What is she busy with? Why did she suddenly leave the 9th prison? Is she already making preparations? Everyone asked at once, but Yizichin could tell from their words that Venerable Spirit Phoenix had mentioned her plan to them. Venerable Spirit Phoenix is already making preparations. Yizichin let out a deep sigh, then said. Everyone here, including Chicano, clenched their fists tightly. It was clear that they were all very excited. This is also why I said that the human race needs to consider whether they can handle the pressure we put on them, Yi Zichen chuckled. Yi Zichen chuckled. Once upon a time, all of humanity's meritorious service members were imprisoned for some nonsensical reason. If we expose all of this, will they be able to handle the public opinion of the Master's clansmen? Also, don't forget that you are all people who stand at the peak of the universe. Are we really afraid of them in terms of strength? That's true, but we are all alone. One Eye hesitated for a moment. You are one of Big Sis Phoenix's people, so I won't treat you as an outsider. What you said just now was very nice, but you didn't consider that the human race as a whole is a colossus. We can't do anything to the human race at all. Then what about Venerable Spirit Phoenix? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and asked. Didn't she also leave the human race's 9th prison alone and return to the human race's territory with all of her sins on her shoulders? She wants to take revenge for those who have died and clear the name of all of you. Hearing that, everyone fell silent. Yi Zichen looked at them silently and sensed the hesitation in their hearts. Perhaps only after they truly witnessed the strength of the human race. Only then could they truly feel reverence. They were all people who had seen it. Yi Zichen hadn't, and it was precisely because he didn't feel that kind of fear that he could say such a thing. What I said to you is very simple. As long as you serve me wholeheartedly, I can promise you that no pressure is pressure on me. Compared to the burden I bear, you guys are far too easy. Chapter 2454. Pressure. Yi Zichen already had enough on his shoulders. The burden of the entire Milky Way galaxy was on his shoulders. In the future, he'd have to face Songyue Galaxy, Songyue's entire Alliance army. What could these human prisoners in front of him amount to? At most, they'd add a bit more weight to their bodies. Furthermore, in Yi Zichen's eyes, their existence wasn't a burden at all. Rather, they were helpers that could help him relax. At worst, he'd just rebel. He was already bound to the same warship as the Spirit Phoenix. What else did he have to be afraid of? You. Just do what you're supposed to do. As for the rest, don't worry and leave it to me. Who would dare use you against us? We'll make them regret ever being born into this world. As soon as Yi Zichen said that, the others seemed to be infected by his emotions. They didn't doubt Yi Zichen's words at all. Judging from his emotions just now, he really did have that kind of determination and confidence. Guys, we've been taught a lesson by a cosmic-level youngster. No, I should say, we've been taught a lesson by our alliance head. The one-eyed venerable grinned and cracked his neck. That's right. What do we have to be afraid of? Big Sister Phoenix already told us, so let's just make the universe a bit livelier. If we keep lowering our heads like this, the humans might even forget that we're all lions. With that, the one-eyed venerable laughed heartily. Chicano, assign us jobs. Since we've followed the alliance head, we have to shine for him. After spending millions of years in the 9th prison, my bones are rusting. Say it. Who do you want to kill? I'll take care of him right now. The one-eyed venerable was full of heroic spirit. Chicano's eyes revealed an inexplicable smile. Go work at an equipment store. Huh! The one-eyed venerable, who'd been ready to go all out, was dumbfounded. What did you just say? Staff. I'm a dignified venerable one, and you're telling me to become an employee of an equipment store? Aren't you overusing me? Not just you, all of you. Chicano pointed at the people in front of him. All of you have to be employees. Of course, Muley is slightly better. He knows alchemy, so he can be an alchemist in the medicine shop. Sure. A king-ranked young man clenched his fists tightly. No, Chicano. We're old friends. It's fine if you don't want me to be a general, but you want me to do odd jobs? The one-eyed venerable curled his lips. Are you kidding me? What else do you want? Chicano spread his hands. This is the second universe, not the first universe we are in. You're only at the star level now, who can you beat? Only now did everyone notice that their strength, which everyone had to look up to in the first universe, had greatly shrunk here. One-eyed supremacy was still fine. It was a star level. The others were all domain level. Damn, I'm only at the 3rd level domain realm? The titled level young man frowned. That's too much. That's why I said be good employees, Chicano smiled. Of course, if you can raise your strength here, I can consider putting you in an important position. It's just that it won't be possible in the short term. You don't even have the right to guard a city. Unlucky. The one-eyed venerable waved his hand. Don't even think about making me an employee. It's just raising my strength. I'm a supremacy, so I can only cultivate again. Let's go. Those who want to level up with me, follow me. The group of people left the city lord's manor. Chicano did not stop them, while Yizichin looked at them with a smile. There won't be a problem, right? Don't worry, my lord, Chicano smiled. No matter what, they are experts of the first universe. They might not be strong, but they still have their memories. Even if the people of the second universe are at the star system level, they will not be able to take advantage of them. What I'm saying is, aren't you going to give them some weapons? As soon as he said that, Chicano froze on the spot for half a minute. I really forgot about that. Then hurry up and go. Do you want them to fight those ferocious beasts with their fists? Yizichin couldn't help but facepalm. Chicano was usually very meticulous. Why did he suddenly scatter them all over the place? Never mind. To his surprise, Chicano didn't care at all. With one-eyed here, they won't have any problems. City Lord, let's talk about proper business. Proper business? Fire Scorpion. Chicano smiled. In the wilderness outside the town, a human army of 2 million appeared in front of Yizichin. Yizichin looked at the vast army. He couldn't help but let out a sigh. City Lord. This is the vanguard army that was assembled during your 2 years of seclusion. There are 2 million of them. Chicano pointed at the soldiers outside. All of them were from the second universe. There were no players from the first universe mixed in. The main reason was that the players weren't strong enough. They could only enter the vanguard army. Even the weakest was 9th level of the galaxy? Chicano, what's going on? Yizichin was completely dumbfounded. 9th level of the galaxy? Universe level. Where did all these people come from? After all, before he went into seclusion, he couldn't even find a cosmic system level, much less a 9th level galaxy. But now 2 million 9th level galaxy experts had suddenly appeared. This is, Your Excellency, actually, before reaching the general level, you can increase your strength through systematic training, Chicano smiled. This subordinate was fortunate enough to be the instructor of the human assault army in the foreign battlefields, so I know some training method. That's too ridiculous. Just 2 years of systematic training was all it took for these people to become like this. If I could bring Chicano to the Milky Way galaxy. Of course, there's another important reason. The humans here don't have the perfect education methods we have. They use the dumbest methods to increase their strength bit by bit. They actually have a lot of cosmic energy stored in their bodies that they haven't fully used. This subordinate's training method just so happens to be able to fully activate the energy in their bodies, allowing them to obtain their current strength. Chicano, you really are a genius. Yizichin grabbed Chicano's shoulder. Forget exterminating the fire scorpion. Even if they attacked another life planet. He was confident. Is everyone here? Not yet. Chicano smiled. There's also the middle and rear army. There's a total of 5,700,000. Currently, 3 million are training in Miss Lil Ann's lair, while 2,700,000 are tempering their bodies in the lightning secret realm Lu Biao provided. These 2 million are the vanguard army. If there isn't enough people, this subordinate will continue to send more. Chapter 2455. 5,700,000 soldiers. This was the current strength of the Upheaval Alliance. They're all ninth-stage galaxy cultivators? It's not that exaggerated. Chicano laughed and shook his head. The Vanguard is an elite. That's why they're so strong. The rest of the army is a bit weaker. This was his answer. Yizichin let out a sigh of relief. Although he was somewhat disappointed, this was more like it. If they had 5,700,000 cosmic-level soldiers in 2.5 years, that number was a bit too terrifying. How strong are they? Asked Yizichin. They're probably all 5th-stage galaxy cultivators or higher. Chicano thought for a moment, then gave what he thought was the most reliable answer. They might also be 6th-stage. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm not sure. Damn. 5th-stage galaxy cultivators or higher. If he had such an army in the Milky Way, he wouldn't have to live his life in fear. In truth, Chicano didn't quite understand Yizichin's surprise. The way he saw it. In just 2 years, using this method to raise humans to the 9th stage of the galaxy or 1st stage of the universe was perfectly normal. Humanity faced attacks from many different races in the outer realms. They could stand strong for a long time. They hadn't allowed any other races to invade any of humanity's life planet. They relied on this sort of special training method. As for numbers, that was even less surprising. Each life planet had 6 billion people. In special times, such as war, it was possible for every human on the planet to become a soldier. Right now, the Upheaval Alliance controlled 27 cities. Any one of those cities had tens of millions of people living in them. Plus, they had good benefits. Even just 10% of the soldiers were still in the tens of millions. They only had 5,700,000 soldiers. Including the city guards, they had less than 10 million. Little did they know. Yizichin wasn't born and raised in the universe. He didn't measure strength based on the universe as a whole, but rather on Earth. In this way, how could he not be shocked? After a long while, Yizichin finally calmed his racing heart. He knew very well that he was no longer that young man from Earth. He was now standing in the universe. All of this was natural. All right. Then how do we head out? City Lord, please look up. Chicano then pointed at the void outside the town, under the clear sky. Just as Chicano finished speaking, tens of thousands of spaceships suddenly appeared. This is the result of our city's scientific research department's recent research. Invisible spaceship. The entire spaceship is forged with A6-grade materials and inside. Wait a minute. Yizichin couldn't help but interrupt Chicano's speech. Invisible spaceship? Yes. Chicano's eyes were also shining with excitement. I have to mention our chief engineer, Mr. Meng Tai. Mr. Meng has combined our Universe 1's airship technology. Another camouflage function has been added to the surface of the spaceship. City Lord, please look. Yizichin looked towards Chicano's hand, then saw a spaceship land on the ground. Ship camouflage. It can turn the surface of the spaceship into an image similar to the environment. As Chicano spoke, the ship began to transform. Yizichin could only watch as it disappeared from his sight. Reaching out his hand, he could touch the spaceship. Using environmental camouflage to turn invisibility. This subordinate hastily named it Invisible Spaceship. Chicano said, "Does this count as a new technology?" This subordinate thinks so, Chicano nodded. But Meng Tai said it's not. He said that the Virtual World Corporation had suggested this idea before, but it wasn't adopted. Why? At least from what Yizichin could see, this technology was pretty good. There were no flaws in the camouflage at all. They could use this technology to catch the enemy off guard. It was not hard to imagine. He only had a few hundred people with him, and the enemy had already left the team and sent people to surround them. Suddenly, countless spaceships appeared in the sky. It directly turned into a counterattack. Very useful technology. Meng Tai said that the person who overturned this technology was the Virtual World Corporation's chief engineer. He said that the human universe's radar can easily detect the existence of spaceship. If you have the time and energy to complain about environmental camouflage, you might as well add anti-detection devices to the spaceships. Yi Zichen couldn't find any problems with this reply. Yi Zichen couldn't find any problems with it. It could be said that the Virtual World Corporation's idea of using engineering was not wrong. However, Yi Zichen felt that adding this technology would actually increase the strength of spaceships and warships, so there was no problem with it. Can't I add this technology while researching anti-detection? Next time you see Meng Tai, tell him that I really like this function of his, and that I support all of his research. Anything that wasn't adopted in the first universe can be tested here. That's what Meng Tai did, Chicano smiled. When Chicano heard that, he smiled and said, he said that the technology here is still in its infancy, and that some of the technologies he has in his hands are just right for now. As long as you support it with resources, he will bring you even more surprises. Here. Since the chief engineer said that, it was clear that he felt that the resources were not enough. In the future, give all of the city's resources to the research department. As long as they need it, we will give it to them 100%. City Lord, are you sure about this? Chicano frowned. The operations of our city require resources as well. The blacksmiths also need metals to forge. If we give all of the resources to the research department, give it all to him. Yi Zichen was determined. So long as he can bring us any surprises, the resources will be worth it. What's more, when I say give it, I don't mean give it all. We can leave some for the city and the blacksmith. I trust you can handle that. All right. Chicano smiled and nodded. Then I'll continue with my report. These spaceships are all made of a 6th-grade metal, which means they can withstand 6th-layer domain attacks. Their defenses are a bit lacking, but we've been using them to carry people and things for a while now. In truth, they're quite useful. I understand. The Upheaval Alliance's technology was currently blossoming on many fronts. They were currently preparing for war, which was why they'd forged some in case of emergency. Later on, higher-grade products would definitely appear. When that happened, they'd have to replace their equipment. Smelting high-grade metals would be a bit of a waste, but A6-grade metals like this wouldn't hurt at all. Chapter 2456. A 6th-grade metal. It was a basic grade metal in the universe, just like the silver mines on Earth, which were all grade A. B-grade metals were like gold mines. Metals like a 6th grade were mostly used for household use in the universe, they were rarely used in war. The main reason was that their defense was too weak. The battles within the universe, under normal circumstances, were all at the universe level and above. This A6-grade ship was flying out. If an A6-grade metal was used, how many people would be on board? How many people would die? Fortunately, Yi Zichen was in the second universe, there was no concept of technology here, so the use of spaceships was only to carry people, which was acceptable. The ones who would truly fight would still be the 2 million soldiers in front of Yi Zichen. This time, we deployed 10,000 spaceships. Each spaceship can carry 200 people, which is just enough to send all of our people to the battlefield. They're all so small? Yi Zichen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he heard that number. In the first universe, spaceships carrying people usually carried over 1,000 people. Their spaceships directly shrunk by a fifth. The project is rather rushed, and large spaceships are rather time-consuming. Spaceships also need to be smelted in the future, so Meng Tai didn't get the blacksmith to make large ones. Understood. Actually, he had just asked casually. If he didn't say anything, then it would be like he didn't exist. It's just that, these people gave him too many surprises. In the beginning, he was shocked. But from now on, he was already waiting for Chicano to bring him even more surprises. He was waiting for the city's research department. Something that could make him feel excited. Is there anything else? When Yi Zichen asked this question, He was already hoping that Chikano would give him a definite answer in the depths of his heart. Seeing the anticipation in Yizichen's eyes, Chikano smiled. A smile appeared in Chikano's eyes. Since the city lord was looking forward to the surprise they would give, how could he disappoint the city lord? Of course there is. With that, Chikano waved towards the burly man standing at the very front of the vanguard. City Lord. Lord Chikano. The person ran over and stopped in place, then greeted Yizichen and Chikano. City Lord. This is Seuss. He is the main character chosen by me from the many participants. His power is at universe level 6, and he is the pinnacle existence in the Vanguard army. More importantly, he is born with the ability to lead. He is definitely a talented commander who can control an army. Until now, he has not reached the limit of what he can control. Xios also nodded towards Yizichen and Chikano meticulously. Yizichen looked at the middle-aged man in front of him in surprise. To tell the truth, Yizichen didn't sense anything special about him. He looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. If he was thrown into a crowd, he would definitely not stand out. Who would have thought that Chikano would actually hold him in such high regard, and that he was even a Universe Stage 6 master? Seuss kept smiling in a simple and honest manner. Chikano glanced at Yizichen a few times, then smiled. City Lord, don't be fooled by his honest appearance. After wielding an army, my entire person is different. As soon as he finished speaking, Chikano gave Seuss a look. Seuss immediately understood. He placed his hand on a pink rod on his waist. Yizichen had noticed this rod a long time ago, but he didn't think that this rod was an item that Chikano needed to introduce. Seuss took out the rod. Only when Seuss took out the rod did Yizichen notice that it wasn't a rod at all, but a laser gun. Yizichen had seen this type of laser gun in the universe before. He had wanted to buy one to defend himself, but it was truly too expensive. He didn't seem to need one in the short term, so he didn't buy it. I didn't think that the Upheaval Alliance already had this sort of technology. I believe that City Lord can tell as well. That's right, this is a laser gun. It was designed by our chief engineer Meng Tai and given to our temporary department, which is the smithy, to make. What grade? Yizichen asked. C9. All of a sudden, Yizichen's breathing became rapid. C9. In other words, they already have a weapon that can insta-kill a level 9 galactic expert. Is it fully equipped? Yizichen said. No, Chikano shook his head. Chikano shook his head. The forging of a C9 grade laser gun requires a lot of resources and energy. The energy and resources we have are limited. Considering the future development, we have forged 2,000 C9 grade laser guns this time and given them to the generals of the Vanguard. Alright. Yizichen sighed in his heart. It was indeed a bit greedy of him to want to equip a C9 laser gun that cost 2 million in 2 short years. Also, even if they had enough resources, they still needed to consider the time needed to forge it. The forging department in Chaoyang City was still too lacking. The equipment for the city guards, the equipment for the expeditionary forces, the spaceships, the laser guns. All of these required the smithy to complete. This amount of work was quite a bit of pressure for them. Let's expand the forging department in the future. Yizichen mentioned it when he thought about the increase in the demand for forging in Chaoyang City. This subordinate is already working on it, Chikano smiled. Yizichen nodded. It seems like my actions were unnecessary. With Chikano here, he should be able to relax. As the acting city lord, he should be able to take care of these things. City Lord. This subordinate wasn't finished yet. Chikano suddenly smiled. Yizichen nodded and signaled him to continue. Even though we don't have C9 laser guns for all of our members, but we do have C3 ones. Meng Tai also made adjustments to the energy supply. Normal laser guns can only fire 5 shots before needing to be recharged. Our laser guns can fire 10 shots, which means that the amount of energy ammo has doubled. At the same time, our energy consumption did not increase. It is still 5 shots, but we can fire 10 shot. What? Yizichin stared at Chicano with eyes filled with indescribable fear. Actually, this could be seen as saving twice the amount of energy. This sort of technology was definitely good news for the future resource consumption of the Upheaval Alliance. Yizichin was shocked. What greeted him was a long silence. Yizichin let out a long sigh. He truly couldn't imagine why the Virtual World Corporation would give up on such a genius. Does that mean the chief engineer of the Virtual World Corporation is better? If that's the case, just who is he? Meng Tai is a genius. After a long sigh, Yizichin suddenly spoke up. The Upheaval Alliance is willing to become the place where he can realize his dreams and ambitions. Chapter 2457. It didn't matter how the Virtual World Corporation viewed Meng Tai. In Yizichin's eyes, he was an incoherent genius. The ship's camouflage function, as well as the laser gun's energy consumption, were both genius moves. Unfortunately, Meng Tai didn't truly belong to him. Hua Jianro had lent Meng Tai to him, and he was still staying with her family. Yizichin considered the possibility that Meng Tai might leave the Upheaval Alliance. He really couldn't imagine whether the Upheaval Alliance would be able to withstand such a blow. He had to think of a way to make Meng Tai stay. Given Meng Tai's former status, money held no allure for him at all. He was strong to begin with, and he held a high position in the Virtual World Corporation. Rare treasures. Given Yizichin's current level, he might not even be able to take out anything that might catch his eye. He felt like, if he wanted to keep Meng Tai, the only way was to let him do whatever he wanted. Yizichin could sense the Upheaval Alliance's absolute trust in him. He left the Virtual World Corporation. It seemed he hadn't been able to achieve his ambitions. The chief engineer had overshadowed him, so much so that he hadn't been able to put his brilliant ideas to good use. In Yizichin's eyes, he was the boss. When it came to technology, his words were absolute. He didn't care about the process, no matter how terrible it was. As long as he could see the results, that was enough. City Lord. Yizichin was lost in thought when Chicano called him back. He looked up and smiled at him. What is it? It seems you didn't hear what I said just now, said Chicano with a smile. Chicano smiled and said, This subordinate just said that our vanguard army of 2 million soldiers is not only equipped with laser guns, but also a full set of star system grade purple tier equipment. In terms of equipment, our vanguard army is the best out of all of them. The blacksmiths all forge together? Yizichin arched his brows. That's right. Chicano laughed. This bearded dwarf has given us far too many surprises. So long as we give him the blueprints of our research department, there's nothing he can't make. He's also made quite a few blueprints. So long as we provide him with enough resources, he can forge even better equipment. Resources. More resources. Meng Tai's research department needed a lot of resources, and so did his blacksmith. He had thought that he would occupy 27 cities. Their resources could be alleviated to a certain extent, but now it seemed that they were still lacking too much. If only Chicano could follow him to the Milky Way. Inside the Milky Way galaxy, there was a large amount of resources stored, but no one was mining them. There were hundreds of billions of stars there. There were countless planets. Even if Yizichin returned to the Milky Way and sent people to mine for resources, they wouldn't be able to detect the existence of rare resources with their current technology. Even if they found it, no one would recognize it. The Milky Way galaxy was definitely a great treasure, but Yizichin still didn't have the key to it. If Chaos City could obtain the resources of the Milky Way, they did not need to worry about resources at all. City Lord, you don't have to be too anxious. All forces are like this at the beginning, not to mention that we're speeding up. Chicano smiled and comforted him. I think with our current force, it won't be a problem to occupy this life star. After we occupy this life star, we can relieve our shortage of resources. We also have spaceships, so we can plunder resources from other planets. Understood. What Chicano didn't know was that Yizichin wasn't lamenting about their lack of resources, but rather the treasures of the Milky Way galaxy. Yizichin let out a long sigh. Yizichin suddenly thought of something very important. Oh yeah, Chicano. City Lord, please speak. We still need to control the extraction of resources. We need to use some non-renewable resources sparingly. Don't let this planet's resources dry up in order to obtain more. Can I ask why? Asked Chicano. If I'm not wrong, we have to live in the second universe in the future, not the first universe. If we extract all the resources here, how are we supposed to live in the future? This is our headquarters, replied Yizichin. It was obvious from Chicano's shocked expression that he definitely didn't know about this. Actually, the only reason Yizichin knew about this was because of the venerable spirit Phoenix. The first universe was going to be destroyed. If humans wanted to survive, they had to come to the second universe. No wonder. After a brief moment of silence, Chicano nodded. This subordinate has also received news that many peak families in the universe are pouring large amounts of resources into this place. At the start, this subordinate was very confused as to why they would do so, but now I understand. You can still receive news from Prison 9. Yizichin was shocked. It's all thanks to the venerable spirit Phoenix, Chicano smiled. When the venerable spirit Phoenix was the commander-in-chief, she allowed us to enter the virtual network to have some fun. Of course, we used anonymous helmet. Every year, the venerable spirit Phoenix would send people to buy large amounts of helmets for us to use. Otherwise, how could we have lived in a place like that for so long? I see. Hearing that, Yizichin nodded. City Lord, this subordinate has already told you everything I can. This is the full power of our city's vanguard. This subordinate estimates that we will definitely win this battle, Chicano smiled. Now, all we have to do is wait for City Lord to give the order to march. From now on, it's time for us to take the first step in conquering the universe. Let this planet witness our power. As he spoke, Chicano took 2 steps back and waited for Yizichin's order. Several million pairs of eyes looked towards him, causing Yizichin's blood to boil. Dijo. Big bro, I'm here. A silver shovel fell from the sky, while Dijo walked in front of Yizichin with a gust of wind. Take the money. Did he just throw 200 million star coins into Dijo's hands? Find the location of fire pyrolite for me. Dijo grabbed the money pouch and closed his eyes, causing the coins to disappear from his hands. Found it. Give me the coordinates. Dijo told Yizichin the coordinate. Yizichin squinted his eyes with a smile, then raised his right fist high above his head. Everyone board the ship. The 2 million strong army entered the spaceships. Yizichin clenched his fist tightly, then walked onto one of the spaceships and looked in the direction Dijo gave him. Depart. Chapter 2458. Half a month passed. The Upheaval Alliance's vanguard possessed invisible spaceships and laser guns. As soon as the battle began, they were destined to be swept aside. Surrender. Gather the resources. Surrender. Gather the resources. That was what the Upheaval Alliance had been doing all this time. In order to ensure that the vanguard had sufficient numbers, they'd left the defense of the resource zones to the rest of the army of 3.7 million. However, up until now, they still hadn't seen Huaxia. I never would have guessed that guy was hiding so deeply. Yizichin stood in the wilderness and looked out at the forest of vicious beasts. Over the past half-month, they'd already broken through 3 defenses and reached the 5th region of the planet. It was as if Huaxia had vanished from the face of the planet. Never mind Yizichin, he hadn't even seen a single one of Huaxia's subordinates. Han Qing. Yes, sir. Han Qing had been assigned to this battle as a follow-up. They'd conquered a large number of cities and needed Chicano to stay behind to manage them. Han Qing had been assigned to this task as well. It's worth mentioning that Han Qing was already at the first layer of the universe, and he'd gained his strength through Chicano's systematic training. Have you confirmed the integrity of the investigation? Have you really not seen any of Huasie's subordinates? I'm sure. Han Qing nodded solemnly. I've already sent people to investigate thoroughly. There really is no one with a flame imprint. That's strange. Yi Zichen frowned. Based on the speed of their advance and the coordinates Di Zhou had given them, they should have met up with Huasie by now. How could they not have seen any of Huasie's subordinates? He naturally didn't doubt Han Qing's ability to do his job. He was just curious. There are still a few more cities we haven't conquered. There's only one left, replied Han Qing. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, he said, reporting to the city lord, we've conquered the last city as well. Let's go take a look. There were far fewer cities in the inner regions than in the outer regions. The size of the cities and the overall strength of the residents were naturally incomparable to the outer regions. When Yi Zichen's army entered, the surrounding residents looked at them with dread. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes as he walked in the center, then looked at the many children in the city, whose eyes were filled with reverence. Don't harm any of the residents. I understand. Han Qing nodded. All right, let's begin the investigation. Han Qing led the others away. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and released the power of the universe. What surprised him was that the strongest person in this city was actually a level 6 nebula. Maybe in Liujia town, this kind of power couldn't be resisted. In the 5th district, which was already the core of the planet, how could the strongest person be at the 6th level of the nebula system? When they attacked the next area, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. He had already encountered a level 7 nebula cultivator. It couldn't be that the higher the grade of the region, the weaker the strength of the residents. This was simply impossible. There was also the number of people in the city. It seemed to be a little less. He sat quietly on a house in the town, waiting for Han Qing to return and report to him. About 2 hours later. How is it? Yi Zichen quickly called out when he saw Han Qing return. Han Qing shook his head lightly. Yi Zichen's gaze darkened. Di Jia. What's wrong, boss? Di Zhou ran over with the shovel, then subconsciously blanked out when he saw Yi Zichen's gaze. Boss, I brought this chicken leg myself. I didn't steal it. I'm not asking about your chicken leg. Are you sure the coordinates you gave me back then were accurate? Of course. Di Zhou nodded vigorously. The coordinates I gave you are absolutely accurate, boss. You can't possibly not trust me, right? It's not that I don't trust you. In truth, Yi Zichen didn't even know what to say. It didn't matter if Di Zhou's coordinates were accurate or not. They'd always surrounded the city. So long as they pushed deeper, they would definitely see Huasie. But up until now, he hadn't seen him. Daddy, I want Daddy. At that moment, a young girl in the city clutched her mother's arm and burst into tears. Several soldiers stood in front of them, conducting a second round of questioning. Their method of questioning was rather polite. Perhaps because the girl was relatively young, she was a bit scared, so she started crying. Yi Zichen leaped down. When the soldiers saw Yi Zichen, they respectfully greeted him. Your Excellency. You can leave. Go and check on the others. The soldiers left. Yi Zichen smiled and squatted down, then gently wiped away the girl's tears. Don't be scared. Uncles just wanted to see if you were controlled by bad people or not. We're all good people. Yi Zichen gently pinched the girl's cheek. Yi Zichen took out a few sugar balls. Here. The girl stopped crying when she saw Yi Zichen's smile, then reached out to hold the sugar balls. Good girl. Yi Zichen caressed the girl's face, then looked up towards the woman beside her with a smile. How old is she? A bit over 6, the woman replied rather nervously. The woman was a little uneasy when she answered. She had never experienced something like this in all her years. She was just a normal housewife, and was only at the 5th level of the domain realm. She was afraid when she saw so many galaxy and universe levels. This is a good time. Yi Zichen's tone was very gentle. When he saw the girl, he also thought of his future children. Yi Zichen patted the girl's head, then stood up. Where did her daddy go? The woman pursed her lips without saying anything. Yi Zichen smiled when he saw her expression. You don't have to be so nervous. Everything I said just now was true. We're good people, we came here to save you. The woman continued to purse her lips without saying anything. Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh. Let me ask you this. Have you felt that your husband's behavior has been rather strange recently? Or rather, did he gain some sort of mark on his body? Did his abilities change in any way? From start to finish, the woman did not speak. Suddenly, the girl reached out her hand with a smile. I know. Daddy has a pattern that looks like a flame on his body. Daddy can also set fire. Lilia. The woman yanked the girl. Yi Zichen's eyes instantly widened, then grabbed the woman's arm. Big sis. It's not that I'm trying to scare you, but if you insist on hiding it, you might harm your husband. Having that flame mark isn't a good thing. It's a method to control the soul. Your husband is actually a puppet right now. Chapter 24:59. The woman pursed her lips and remained silent. However, from her gaze and the girl's words, Yi Zichen was already certain that Huasie's subordinates were present. Seriously? I don't know why you're silent. Someone might have asked or threatened you to do so. I respect your decision. But I have to tell you, even if you remain silent, I can still find them. The woman bit her lips. She clenched her fists. Yi Zichen gave her another half a minute, but she still didn't say anything. All right. If you don't want to say, then I won't ask. It's just a pity that I can clearly save your husband, but you missed this chance. With that, Yi Zichen turned to leave. Han Qing, no need to check anymore. Let's continue. Understood. Han Qing received the order and left. The woman bit her lips when she saw that Yi Zichen was about to leave. Wait a moment. A smile flashed across Yi Zichen's face when he heard the woman's call, but his gaze remained cold. What is it? You! Can you really save my husband? The woman clenched her fists and placed them on her chest. Recently, my husband has truly become very strange. His strangeness makes me feel afraid. I feel like that isn't him at all, but I said it from the start, I came to save you. Her words might have been an exaggeration. Yi Zichen wasn't so noble as to save the people from disaster. His reason for pursuing Huasie was very simple. He wanted to kill him. Yi Zichen felt disgusted just by living. If he didn't get rid of this rat that liked to hide in the gutter, then who knew what kind of trouble he would bring to Yi Zichen in the future. As for saving the others, it was purely out of convenience. While they were fighting for resources, they were also reorganizing and managing the planet, using it as their base of operations in preparation for the future StarCraft. However, these words were exactly what the commoners needed. For example, the woman in front of him. All right, I believe you, the woman panted. The woman panted heavily and trembled. My husband joined a kingdom organization some time ago. Kingdom? Yi Zichen frowned. Yes, we've never heard of this kingdom either. What kingdom? The Empire of Fire. The woman exhaled deeply. If I remember correctly, this is the name of the kingdom. 2 years ago, this kingdom claimed to be from the core circle and came here to recruit personal guard. Anyone who can become the king's personal guard has the right to live in the inner circle. Continue, Yi Zichen asked. The requirements to be a personal guard are very strict. They need to be at least at the star system level 6 or above. My husband only joined the kingdom last year. The flame brand you mentioned just now was branded by the kingdom's great mage. It said that it can receive the kingdom's blessing and control the power of fire. Great Taoist master. This was definitely the fire pyrolysis. Yi Zichen understood. The woman was still talking to herself. In the beginning it was pretty good. My husband joined the personal guard group, and the commission he received was more than 10 times that of before. The living conditions of the family had also been greatly improved. Furthermore, what the great master said was true. On the 3rd day of possessing the flame imprint, my husband was able to use the power of flames. You know, in order to control the elemental lands, one has to be at least at the advanced universe level. My husband was able to do it at the star system level. This caused him to acknowledge the kingdom to an insane degree. It wasn't just my husband. Everyone who joined the personal guard group in our town, including the other towns, acknowledged the kingdom to the point of going insane. They would promote the kingdom as they pleased. Anyone who slandered the kingdom would be beaten up, while the more serious ones would be killed. Even if it was me. I only said a few words and asked him if he had seen that kingdom before, but he didn't say anything. Because he's never been to the core circle before, he hit me with just one sentence. In the past, he would never hit me, not even when he was talking loudly. According to my observations, every time he released flames, his actions would become more and more twisted. I tried to persuade him to use it less, but he didn't listen at all. It was most likely because the flame imprint was a method of corrosion. When the flame imprint was first placed, it would grant him a certain amount of control over flames. However, as long as you used it, the flames would corrode your heart and mind. In the end, you would be completely under Huasie's control. Back in the newbie village, Huasie might very well have used this method to make everyone in the village respect him without the slightest bit of doubt. That imprint is actually a way to corrode their hearts, Yi Zichen explained to the woman. The more he uses it, the more it corrodes his body. In the end, his heart will be completely controlled. Even if he wants to break free, he won't be able to. Then can my husband be saved? The woman asked nervously. It should be possible. Yi Zichen hesitated for a moment, then replied. This sort of spiritual shackles will naturally be undone once the caster dies. To tell you the truth, the town I was once in was controlled by him. I experienced that kind of tragedy, and I don't want our town to suffer the same fate again, which is why I decided to end his life. Now I need you to tell me, where is that great master? He's not in town right now, said the woman. He left? Yes, he left the town 3 days ago, and took all of the kingdom's personal guards with him. My husband is one of them. They asked us not to reveal their whereabouts. The woman crossed her arms and said worriedly, My lord, will my husband be able to come back alive? I'm really scared. Don't worry, Yi Zichen smiled towards the woman. Yi Zichen smiled at the woman, then his gaze darkened. It seems like Huasie already knows that I'm marching. He should also know that they're coming for me. Is that why he gathered his forces in advance in preparation for the final battle? What a sly guy. No wonder I didn't see a single one of his subordinates. He took them all away. Then do you know the direction of their empire? The woman shook her head silently, then reached out her hand. I only remember that my husband left from the north gate. There were a lot of people there, at least several 100,000. You bitch! You actually dared to leak the Empire's secrets. Suddenly, a furious roar sounded out from the sky, and a pillar of fire descended from the sky. Yi Zichen immediately hugged the woman. The flames landed on his cloak. Looking up, he saw a dense crowd of people standing in the air, their palms burning with flames. Right in front of them was the old man with the smile on his face. Brat. Long time no see.